Chapter 498. In fact, it was not because of Sun Xiaojin's charm, but because of his great potential. All of the powerful parties in the South Shallow Sea Alliance had one requirement for their disciples, which was to avoid conflict with Sun Xiaojin as much as possible. If they could become normal friends with Sun Xiaojin, the power of the sect would focus on training them regardless of their potential. If they could become good friends with Sun Xiaojin, they would go from focusing on training to all-out training, regardless of the cost. Even if they were Rottenwood, they would make sure that they could be gilded. Of course, to be able to become friends with Sun Xiaojin, even if it was just a normal friend, their strength would not be too low. Otherwise, the two would not even have a place to interact, let alone become friends. And the reason for all of this was Sun Xiaojin's potential. Top-rank potential was extremely rare even in the ancient era. According to the probability, out of 10 top-ranked demonic beasts, at least 5 would be able to become demonic kings. In the water ape race, Sun Tai and Sun Xiaojin both had top-rank potential. Without any surprises, one of them would become demonic kings, or even both of them would become demonic kings. If that were the case, the big parties in the South Shallow Sea Alliance would not pay so much attention to Sun Xiaojin. Inside Sun Xiaojin's body, besides the water ape bloodline, there was an even more noble bloodline called the red gold ape bloodline. It was one of the top ancient demonic beast bloodlines. Therefore, once Sun Xiaojin became a demonic king, he would completely activate the red gold evil ape bloodline and become a powerful demonic king. A powerful demonic king meant too much. After all, even king warriors had different levels of power. Top king warriors were way more powerful than normal king warriors in terms of power and deterrence. The best example would be the dragon god Celestial Palace in the East Shallow Sea. With the power of the old dragon king alone, the other 4 powerful parties did not even dare to think about it. All these years, they had been waiting for the old dragon king's life to run out. Sun Xiaojin did not even look at the crowd as he led Yi Chun toward the palace in the center of the light cover. The palace was deep and spacious, and its color was ancient blue. In the center of the palace, there was an octagonal platform. On each of the 8 sides of the platform, there was a stone tablet. The first stone tablet had the word sky, the second earth, the third mountain, followed by lake, thunder, wind, water, and fire. The stone tablets were extremely ancient, emitting a vast aura. The 8 stone tablets combined together seemed to be able to suppress everything. Sun Xiaojin pointed at the circular hole in the middle of the platform and said, "This is the undersea spiral tunnel. This is your first time here, so you should train on the 7th floor. If you go any further down, you will feel extremely uncomfortable, and it will be hard for you to calm down and train. As for training inside, you do not need to worry about people plotting against you. No one would dare to attack you inside the tunnel. 7th floor? What are the requirements for the people who enter the tunnel? Normally, the higher your power, the deeper you will be able to go. However, this is only for us beasts. You humans can use martial arts to increase your power, but under the same cultivation, you will not be able to go as deep as us beasts. The pressure of the tunnel will affect 3 aspects: the willpower, the Zhen Yuan, and the body. Your willpower is very powerful, and your Zhen Yuan is also very pure. However, the total amount is too little, which will cause your body to be under even more pressure. Once your body cannot handle it anymore, you will not be able to go any further, and you'll have to stop immediately. Let's go down then. Yichen also wanted to try out the mysteries of the tunnel. Let's go. Sun Xiaojin walked onto the platform and arrived at the entrance of the tunnel. It was a spiral staircase. The hole was 20 meters in diameter, and the staircase was 9 meters wide. Near the wall of the staircase, there were rooms that were 3 meters wide. Therefore, the staircase that could be walked on was only 6 meters wide. The two followed the staircase and started to go down. 1st floor, 2nd floor, 7th floor. Sun Xiaojin was a bit surprised. He thought that the 7th floor would be Yi Chen's limit. He did not expect that he would be fine without any change in his expression. 8th floor, 9th floor, 13th floor. It seems like I have underestimated you. It was the first time that Sun Xiaojin had seen an astral-reaching realm warrior reach the 13th floor. In the past, No one had even reached the 7th floor. Yichen said, "In terms of Zhen Yuan and body, I do not have much of an advantage. But my willpower is more than enough to make up for it and surpass it." Willpower? Interesting. Those who walk on willpower will basically become top warriors. You are qualified to be my rival in the future. There are not many people who could get Sun Xiaojin's approval. In other words, Yichen had made Sun Xiaojin feel threatened. It was the kind of threat that he did not have much confidence in winning against Yichen at the same level. After reaching the 15th floor, Yichen finally felt that he had reached his limit. In terms of willpower, he could handle it easily, but his Zhen Yuan and body could not handle any more pressure. Even if his willpower had canceled out a part of it, he would not be able to avoid it. "Brother Sun, I will train here." Under the invisible pressure, even Yichen found it difficult to speak. Sun Xiaojin nodded. His tall and sturdy body continued to walk down. Soon, he disappeared on the next floor. Retracting his gaze, Yichen was about to let out a breath to relieve the pressure. But just as he opened his mouth, he closed it immediately. He was afraid that if he let out a breath, it would cause an imbalance between the pressure inside and outside, which would cause his chest bones to collapse and cause serious injuries. "I should still be careful." Arriving at the door of the room next to him, Yichen opened the door and walked in. The room was neither too big nor too small, 3 meters in both width and length. There was only a cushion on the floor and nothing else. Sitting on the cushion with his legs crossed, Yichen closed his eyes and entered the training mode. So slow. In the past, once Yichen activated his martial art, his Zhen Yuan would circulate at a high speed like a rushing river. But in the tunnel, the Zhen Yuan circulation speed was reduced by 10 times. Every step forward was extremely difficult, as if there was a mountain inside. My body is at its limit, and so is my Zhen Yuan. Fortunately, my willpower is more than enough. Otherwise, training here would not be worth it. It would be hard to concentrate. Yichen had a preliminary understanding of the underwater tunnel's function. It was to use the pressure to push one to their limit, allowing them to improve even faster. Of course, too much pressure was not a good thing, since a person's potential could not be forced out all of a sudden. If one could not even move his mind, then there would be no training at all. There had to be a limit, and that limit would have to be controlled by oneself. Soon, Yichen realized that the slow circulation speed of Zhen Yuan was not a bad thing. Sometimes, if the circulation speed was too fast, it would be easy to miss out on the details. But now that it had slowed down, Yichen had a new understanding of the Green Lotus Sword spell. He could clearly see the minute changes when the Zhen Yuan was circulating. Every meridian it passed through actually had a slight difference. When the Zhen Yuan passes through this meridian, it will produce a slow acceleration effect. The inner wall of this meridian is not smooth, which causes the Zhen Yuan to vibrate. After 1 month, Yichen had actually trained to the peak of the 14th realm of the Green Lotus Sword spell and had made 2 breakthroughs. It should be known that there were 5 breakthroughs from the peak of the 14th realm to the 15th realm. Making 2 breakthroughs was definitely unexpected. Normally, when most people came to the underwater tunnel, they would be able to train faster. However, Yichen's willpower was just too powerful. He was only at the peak of late astral reaching realm, but he had the master level sword intent. This kind of willpower had allowed him to perform extremely well under extreme pressure. Most importantly, even if other people had the master level sword intent at the peak of late astral reaching realm, they would still not be able to compete with Yichen. They would at most be able to double the effect. But it should not be forgotten that Yichen's master level sword intent was based on his extremely powerful soul. With a powerful soul, his sword intent would be even more powerful, which would give him endless motivation. In other words, when battling with the same level of sword intent, Yichen would be able to last longer than anyone else, maybe even 10 times longer. Yichen did not even know where the limit of his soul was, because only after reaching the Sea of Souls realm would he be able to fully use his soul power. Right now, Yichen was only guessing. The first 2 breakthroughs were easy to make, but the latter 3 would be much more difficult. However, after 2 months, Yi-Chen had still managed to reach the 15th realm of the Green Lotus Sword spell, which was the highest realm. Once he reached the 15th realm, Yi-Chen felt the pressure around him lighten up. His whole body felt light, as if he could float in the air. Inside his dantian, on top of the blue lotus, countless lotus hearts sword chi started to appear. 1, 2, 10, 29, 99 lotus heart sword chi appeared in total. But Yi-Chen knew that this was only the number on the surface. Every time he used up a lotus heart sword chi, a new one would be born. As long as his Zhen Yuan was not completely used up, the lotus heart sword chi would be endless, and it would be able to burst out a sword chi tornado. Doubled. My battling power has doubled again. Yi-Chen, who was always calm, could not help but feel his blood boiling. At his level, the meaning of having his battling power doubled was obvious. Before, his limit was the battle power of a soul warrior. But now, he could completely compete with spirit warriors and even kill normal spirit warriors. This Green Lotus Sword spell is so powerful. Out of the 99 Lotus Heart Sword Chi, even if only 10 of them could be used at the same time, it would be enough to shock the world. After all, each Lotus Heart Sword Chi has a power close to the Amaranthan nature. If 10 of them were to be used at the same time, who in the same realm would be able to block it? It turns out that the power of the soul has just been revealed. Before, I had buried the advantage of the soul power. All this time, Yi-Chen had only been training normally, using the comprehensive ability of the soul power. But now he finally understood that under normal circumstances, the effect of the soul power could not be shown at all. Why did his immortal body training speed increase when he was being chased by the 4C of Soul's Realm demi-beasts from the AO family? And why did his training speed increase when he was under the pressure in the underwater tunnel? It was all because of the pressure, because only pressure could bring out the real advantage of the soul power. Before, he could only use 20 to 30% of his soul power. But now, thinking about it, he realized that it was such a waste of resources. The more pressure there is, the more potential I have. I'm still far from reaching my limit. But once I understand the advantage of the soul power, it means that the future will not be peaceful anymore. How could normal training create pressure? Hee. Forcing a smile, Yi-Chen thought to himself, doesn't this mean that I am the reason for the chaos in this era? I am one of the reasons for the chaos in this world. Yi-Chen had never thought that he would not be able to become a life and death realm warrior. Therefore, when the world was in chaos, he would be one of the most important people. Also, he had to thank Xiao Feng's scent drizzle for tipping him 20,000 Chidian coins, and Watermelon Skin N0 for tipping him 20,000 Chidian coins. Chapter 499. I have trained my Green Lotus Sword spell to the highest level, the 15th level. The purity and quantity of my Zhen Yuan have increased a lot. I might as well go to the next level. Standing up, Yi-Chen opened the door and walked out. The 16th level, the 17th level, the 21st level. Yi-Chen arrived at the 21st level, which was close to the 22nd level. Inside the room, Yi-Chen got rid of all the distracting thoughts and sat down again to train. After 3 days and 3 nights, Yi-Chen had completely consolidated the 15th level of the Green Lotus Sword spell. The Blue Lotus Seed and Lotus Heart Sword Chi in his dantian were getting more and more condensed. Under the heavy pressure, he pushed his Zhen Yuan with all his strength. He could even hear the sound of water flowing, which was the sign of extremely dense and pure Zhen Yuan. Besides that, Yi-Chen had finally trained his spirit body. Each of his movements contained the power of a great weapon, which greatly increased his defense and body's endurance. With the spirit body trained, my Green Lotus Sword spell has reached the highest level. Without using the Lotus Heart Sword Chi, my battling power would increase by around 20%, which would allow me to compete with the weakest spirit level warriors. Once I use a large amount of Lotus Heart Sword Chi and create a Sword Chi tornado, my battling power would increase drastically. After all, who would be able to perform multiple killing attacks at the same time, or even 10 at the same time? 1 or 2 Lotus Heart Sword Chi would not be scary, but when it was formed into a large scale, it would be horrifying. In fact, Yi Chen's current pure power was only equal to the weakest spirit-level warriors. However, if he performed the Lotus Heart Sword Chi, he would be able to kill normal spirit-level warriors. This was the advantage of the endless Lotus Heart Sword Chi. The time I promised with Brother Sun was 3 months. It has already been 3 days. Let's get out first. Before coming, Yi Chen and Sun Xiaojin had promised to come out together in 3 months. Of course, because of the possibility of a breakthrough, the first one to go out would have to wait outside for a week. Outside the tunnel, inside the palace, Sun Xiaojin sat on the ground with his legs crossed. "Yeah, I'm out." Sun Xiaojin opened his eyes and looked at Yi Chen, who had just walked out of the tunnel. Yi Chen said apologetically, "Brother Sun, sorry to keep you waiting." "No problem. It has only been 3 days." "Yeah, you broke through?" Sun Xiaojin could tell with a single glance that Yi Chen's aura and physique had become much more powerful than before. This underwater spiral passageway is indeed mysterious. It uses pressure to force out one's potential, allowing one to achieve twice the result with half the effort. I come here once every half a year, and it's rare for me to have a breakthrough. I didn't expect you to be able to improve so quickly on your first visit. You're really abnormal among humans. Sun Xiaojin was very shocked at Yi Chen's training speed. What kind of person is this? He gets stronger every once in a while. If I don't work harder, I will be surpassed by him sooner or later. Sun Xiaojin was a prideful person. Becoming the Beast King had always been his goal. He had always thought that he would be able to walk in front of the young generation and be the best. Therefore, even though his grandpa Sun Tai had high hopes for Yi Chen, he had only thought that Yi Chen's potential was close to his and had not reached his level yet. But now, he no longer thought so. This human genius was definitely the most horrifying genius he had ever met. Yi Chen smiled and looked outside the hall. He asked curiously, "Why is there no one here?" Sun Xiaojin frowned. "I don't know either. Maybe something big happened? Let's get back to the Water Ape Cave as soon as possible. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go." Walking out of the hall and leaving the gray light cover, the two flew toward the Water Ape Cave at their fastest speed. Half a day later, the two arrived at the cave. "You guys are back. Come to my place." A voice reached the two's ears. It was the leader of the Water Ape race, Sun Tai. Yi Chen and Sun Xiaojin exchanged a look, then walked toward the stone hall behind the stone room. Inside the stone hall, Sun Tai was sitting on top. Sun Xiaojin asked, "Grandpa, what happened?" Sun Tai forced a smile. "There is a battle. Is it the deep sea power?" Sun Xiaojin obviously knew something. Indeed, this time, they came with a lot of energy. "I'm afraid they are preparing for a long battle. The Alliance has already started to deploy troops in the underwater plateau. My Water Ape race has also sent a team of 500 people. The leader is your second grandpa's son, and the second and third leaders are your first and third grandpa Kong." Yi Chen did not understand. "Senior son, what is this battle and the deep sea power? Is it very dangerous?" Sun Tai explained. Indeed. Sun Tai explained, the 30 million miles of the true spirit continent's ocean is the shallow ocean, and beyond that is the deep ocean. In between the two is a circle of underwater plateaus. The deep ocean is extremely vast and does not have much contact with our shallow ocean, but it is not absolute either. Some of the deep ocean powers near the shallow ocean have always been eyeing the shallow ocean's geographical location, wanting to take over the shallow ocean. Of course, our shallow ocean powers would not allow that. Every few years, we would have a battle with them. There are too many shallow ocean powers in the south, and we do not have enough cohesiveness. Therefore, we have gradually formed the South Shallow Ocean Alliance. The main purpose of the alliance is to gather everyone's power together and fight against the deep ocean powers. It has been 100 years since the last battle. I see. However, Yi Chen could not understand what was so good about the shallow sea that the deep sea powers would not hesitate to start a war. Perhaps seeing through Yi Chen's question, Sun Tai continued, "In the boundless ocean, there is only one true spirit continent. As far as everyone knows, the true spirit continent is a treasure. The shallow sea next to the true spirit continent is naturally the best place for the deep sea powers to use as a springboard. Of course, the most important thing is that the closer one is to the continent, the more spirit veins there will be, and the more treasures there will be. Although the deep sea also has spirit veins and treasures, they are too scattered and hard to find. Plus, there are too many natural dangers. Sun Xiaojin said at this moment, "Grandpa, I want to join the battle." Hearing him, Sun Tai smiled and said, "I called you here to ask you if you want to join the battle. Don't worry, although the scale of this battle is huge, most of the time, it will just be small skirmishes, wearing out the other side's power. It will not be too intense. If there are no accidents, this battle will last at least 10 years. And in these 10 years, it will be the best time for you young generation to train yourselves. You should not have seen a battle between rank 7 and 8 beasts and astral reaching realm warriors, right? This is a good opportunity. In that case, Yichen would also like to see it." Yichen knew that the scale of this battle was huge, and it was definitely rare. The battles between countries would be made up of mortal realm warriors, while the battles between the shallow sea powers and the deep sea powers would be made up of rank 7 and 8 beasts and astral reaching realm warriors. How could Yichen not go and see it? The scene of the parallel space battlefield was still vivid in Yichen's mind. It was a battle that even king warriors would participate in. Although it was said that before the world was in chaos, king warriors would not participate in the battle, but it was perfect for Yichen. If there were king warriors joining, he would have to think about it. "Yeah, it will not be just you two. I have already selected a team of 30 warriors from the water ape race. They are all young water apes, and you too will be the leaders. Xiaojin, although you are very powerful, you are too hot-tempered. Therefore, you could be the leader. The one making the decisions will be Yichen. Yichen, are you willing to be the second leader of this team?" Sun Tai looked at Yichen. Yichen said with a bit of hesitation, "Senior son, the battle is merciless. I am afraid that I might not be able to let them all come back alive." He could not help but worry, since the water ape race was very small in number. If one died, there would be one less. They were not like humans, who could be squandered as they pleased. "Huh," Sun Tai laughed out loud. "You don't have to worry about that. Since I have sent them, I have already prepared for them to be wiped out. My only request is that you too try not to risk your lives too much and come back alive. I have no other requests. Powerful warriors have to go through life and death situations. What kind of small shrimps would come out in peace?" The second leader will be Yichen. Hearing Sun Tai's words, Yichen naturally did not have any burden in his heart. "All right, all of you come out." Sun Tai looked to the side of the stone palace. Swoosh! A group of young water apes walked out. The lowest was at the 7th rank, and there were 10 who had reached the 8th rank. Kong Xiaowei was one of them. "Listen up. Xiaojin will be your leader, and Yichen will be your second leader. During the battle, Xiaojin will be the leader, and before the battle, Yichen will be the leader. Whoever dares to disobey will be punished according to the clan rules. Do you all understand?" "Understood." The voices of the 30 young water apes were like thunder. Nodding satisfactorily, Sun Tai waved his hand. The wall behind the stone palace suddenly cracked open, revealing a conveyor gate inside. This conveyor gate was built 2 weeks ago. The teleportation point is at the underwater plateau. The conveyor gate there is controlled by our shallow sea alliance. You can go now. "Grandpa, I will go now." "Senior son, goodbye." Sun Xiaojin and Yichen led the 30 people into the conveyor gate. "Who?" The group disappeared without a trace. Waiting until everyone had left, Sun Tai sighed. He is indeed worthy of being a true dragon-level martial genius. His improvement is too fast. Compared to him, Xiaojin is really lacking. Plus, this kid is not as simple as he looks. His potential is immeasurable. No one knows where the limit of his potential is. The underwater plateau was the boundary between the shallow sea and the deep sea. It was 50,000 meters tall and 1,000,000 miles wide, looking like a giant ancient dragon in the ocean. On the side of the plateau, near the deep sea, a large number of sea beasts gathered there. These sea beasts were different from the normal ones, seeming to be even more ferocious. The small ones were only a couple of meters in size, while the big ones were thousands of meters in size. The evil chi they emitted gathered together, causing the seawater to be extremely turbid. On the side of the plateau, near the shallow sea, was the army of the Southern Shallow Sea Alliance. Among the army, 10% were humans and 90% were sea beasts. Be it the humans or the sea beasts, they all had a trace of the same aura ripple. This aura ripple was emitted from the tag, which was the most effective way for the Southern Shallow Sea Alliance to distinguish between friend and foe. After all, once the battle broke out, the shallow sea beasts would be easily confused with the deep sea beasts. Who? Behind a 500-man water ape team, the conveyor gate lit up. 32 figures walked out, led by Sun Xiaojin and Yi Chun. Xiaojin, you are here. The rank 10 water ape second master Sun walked over and handed out the tags. Sun Xiaojin said, Second Master Sun, how many troops do we have? More than 200,000 in total. Hearing him, Yi Chun took a deep breath. 200,000 troops. This was not an army made up of rank 1 or 2 sea beasts and mortal realm warriors, but rank 7 or 8 sea beasts and astral reaching realm warriors. 200,000 of them. What kind of concept was that? Dong, 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 dong. All of a sudden, a huge drumming sound was heard, spreading out in all directions. Even the seawater started to vibrate, layer upon layer. The battle had begun. Chapter 500. The leader told you to come here to train, but the battlefield is heartless. If you rush out alone, you won't be able to survive for more than a blink of an eye. Right now, you should follow behind us and attack together. Wait until the two sides collide, then you can move separately. Second Master Sun reminded Sun Xiaojin and Yi Chun. Yi Chun faintly nodded. Although he had never experienced such a large-scale war, even if he had never eaten pork, he had seen a pig run. The war was not about one-on-one battles. When there was some distance between the two armies, they would launch wave after wave of long-range attacks. Imagine thousands of attacks. What kind of scene would that be? Perhaps even master-level warriors would not be able to survive. All right, let's go. Second Master Sun, Elder Kong, and Third Master Sun all roared and rushed out with 500 water apes. Sun Xiaojin, Yi Chun, and the rest of the young generation followed behind. Meanwhile, the army of the South Shallow Sea Alliance was like a dark cloud, launching a shocking attack. Although there were tens of thousands of people who stayed behind to protect the conveyor gate, there were hundreds of thousands of people who rushed out as well. Hundreds of thousands of sea beasts and humans were charging at the same time. That kind of scene was even more shocking. The seawater of the seabed plateau had completely exploded. On the surface of the sea, horrifying waves that were thousands of meters tall appeared. The two armies were less than 5,000 miles away from each other, and after 15 minutes, they could see each other. Attack! The commander of the Shallow Sea Alliance waved his hand and roared. Boom! 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 Tens of thousands of colorful beast power flows and Zhen Yuan flows rushed out from the Shallow Sea Alliance's camp, covering the sky and the earth. Wherever they went, the seawater was evaporated directly, forming a huge vacuum. Their target was the army of the Deep Sea Alliance. The commander of the Deep Sea Force was a seahorse with a human head. He stood in the middle of the army, and his eyes that didn't look like a human's quickly turned red. While roaring, he signaled the army to attack crazily. He even took out an extra-large bow and used his demonic power to form an arm, shooting 10 arrows in a row. All of a sudden, a huge amount of beast power rushed toward the incoming beast power flows and Zhen Yuan flows of the Shallow Sea Alliance. In the next second, it was like tens of thousands of deep-sea bombs exploding. The powerful shockwave shook the seabed plateau continuously. Fortunately, the plateau was filled with a huge amount of deep-sea earth chi, which was extremely sturdy. Only countless spider web-like cracks appeared on the plateau, but it was not damaged at all. At the border of the two armies, most of the chi flows canceled each other out, while the rest went straight for the opposing army. Walala. On the Shallow Sea Alliance's side, hundreds of Alliance soldiers were annihilated. Their corpses were nowhere to be found. The Deep-Sea Alliance's side wasn't any better. They had also lost hundreds of Deep-Sea Alliance soldiers. Attack, don't stop. The commander of the Shallow Sea Alliance waved his arm, signaling them not to stop. There was still some distance between the two armies, and this distance was enough to kill more enemies. For a moment, only the sound of explosions could be heard. The turbulent seawater pushed in all directions, unable to withstand the pressure of the attacks. Frightening. In just one round of attacks, both sides have lost more than 1,000 soldiers. These soldiers were all astral-reaching experts, yet so many of them died in one go. Those who had never been to the battlefield would have no idea how terrifying the so-called battlefield was. Here, lives were like weeds and blood flowed like rivers. If they wanted to survive, they had to move together. If they moved alone, they would definitely not be able to survive for more than a blink of an eye. The battle was still going on. More and more soldiers were falling down. Some were from the Shallow Sea Alliance. Some were from the Deep Sea Forces. 5 Water Ape soldiers from the Water Ape clan had also died. 4 of them were rank 8 Water Apes, and 1 was rank 9 Water Ape. Before they died, they didn't even have the time to scream. Damn it! Watching his people fall down without even leaving any bones behind, Sun Xiaojin's eyes were red like blood. A horrifying evil chi spread out in all directions, making him look like a peerless evil ape. Yi Chen had a cold look on his face. His body was surrounded by an invisible sharp chi. He waved out his sword, and 100-meter-long sword chi spread out, cutting apart the bodies of 5 deep-sea soldiers. Finally, the two armies clashed together. This time, it was like 2 meteors had collided. The number of dead and wounded soldiers was shocking. The aggressive blast waves spread out for hundreds of miles without stopping. Kill! Sun Xiaojin took the lead and rushed out, completely forgetting about Sun Tai's words. Yi Chen did not say anything. He turned his head and said, "Form the Water Ape battle formation. Do not move alone." Yes, Water Apes had always been hot-tempered and impulsive, especially after seeing blood. They would not even be afraid of death. However, Yi Chen was the second leader appointed by the leader, and his decision-making power was even higher than that of the leader, Sun Xiaojin. Moreover, the sword chi emitted from Yi Chen's body was too intense, carrying an aura of slaughter. It made them nervous, and they did not dare to talk back. Kill! Like a meat grinder, the 30 Water Apes and Yi Chen charged out. Pooh! Pooh! The deep-sea soldiers were killed one after another, their blood splashing everywhere. In front of them, Sun Xiaojin had killed more deep-sea soldiers than Yi Chen and the rest combined. Every time he waved his dark blue iron stick, dozens of lives would be taken. His red eyes shot out horrifying beams of light. Awoo! A 10,000-meter-long deep-sea whale shark charged at Sun Xiaojin. It was a rank 9 ocean beast, and it was extremely talented and powerful. Expand, expand, expand. Putting away his iron stick, Sun Xiaojin's body instantly expanded to 3,000 meters tall. He threw out a punch that contained wind, fire, thunder, and water, shattering the deep-sea whale shark into pieces. Little bastard, you're courting death. The Water Apes were not the only ones who knew how to talk. In fact, as long as the ocean beasts wanted to, they could learn how to talk. It was not hard at all. A rank 9 deep sea serpent spoke human language as its 10,000-meter-long body coiled around Sun Xiaojin, tightly strangling him. Roar! Sun Xiaojin roared towards the sky, revealing his sharp teeth. He grabbed the deep-sea serpent's body with both of his hands and exerted his strength, forcibly tearing it apart. The deep-sea serpent had a strong life force. Even after its body was torn apart, its upper body still coiled around Sun Xiaojin's body. Its hill-sized head bit on his head, wanting to swallow him whole. However, Sun Xiaojin's defense was just as powerful as his battle power. The deep-sea serpent bit down, and one of its teeth was immediately broken. Burning sparks flew everywhere, as if they were smashing iron. A loud clanging sound rang out, shaking the deep-sea serpent to the point of dizziness. Seizing the opportunity, Sun Xiaojin's huge right hand grabbed the deep-sea serpent's neck, his fingernails digging deep into it. With a cracking sound, the deep sea serpent's head was separated from its body. The upper half of its body drooped down, leaving only its head on Sun Xiaojin's head. Taking off the head, Sun Xiaojin smashed it with one punch, his ominous qi spreading everywhere. Whoosh! A cyan-colored sword qi with a hint of gold in it sliced through the ocean water. Wherever the sword qi passed, the ocean water was instantly annihilated, leaving a 3,000 meters long sword mark. All of the deep-sea soldiers within a range of a sword mark were shaken to death. The defense that they were so proud of did not have much of an effect under the mysterious, vibrating power. With his soul power on alert, Yi Chun spared some time to observe the surrounding situation. It was chaotic, extremely chaotic. Almost every inch of space was being ravaged by qi. Countless soldiers were fighting in every area. Some are fighting in groups of 3 to 5, some are fighting in groups, some are fighting in battle formations, and some were attacking each other. At this moment, even the shockwaves could not be discharged smoothly, and they filled the battlefield. Kill them. A group of iron shell lobsters stared at Yi Chun and the 30 water apes. These iron shell lobsters had huge bodies and black shells. Their huge pincers were dozens of meters long, which could easily tear apart the bodies of the Alliance soldiers. The leading iron shell lobster was a rank 10 one. The beast power inside its body did not need to explode out intentionally, but it was already able to cause the surrounding ocean water to shake violently. Maintain the battle formation and work together. Yi Chun only had one order. After speaking, he rushed toward the leading iron shell lobster. Boom! The two sides clashed together, causing the qi power to explode. 13 humans have already died in my hands. You will be the 14th. The rank 10 iron shell lobster waved its huge pincer, smashing toward Yi Chun's head. Using sword steps, Yi Chun dodged the attack like a sword light. He then stabbed out with the long sword in his hand, causing a dot of cyan light to appear on the tip of the sword. Swoosh! The protective beast power of the iron shell lobster was penetrated, and a sword hole appeared on its back. Blue blood kept flowing out. The iron shell lobster was a bit surprised. Its tail suddenly flicked, blowing away Yi Chun's long sword. Yi Chun used the momentum to spin his body and shoot out waves of Lotus Heart sword qi. Each sword qi's power was equal to the 9th movement of the green lotus sword art, Amaranth in nature. No, the iron shell lobster was terrified. He could feel the power of the Lotus Heart sword qi, so his protective beast power was increased to its limit. A pair of huge pincers crossed, protecting his chest and head. Swoosh! 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 The sword qi tornado created by the Lotus Heart sword qi was too horrifying. The protective beast power of the iron shell lobster was broken into hundreds of holes, and the extremely tough pincers could not handle the continuous attacks of the sword qi either. They were all cut off within a second. In the next second, dozens of Lotus Heart sword qi pierced through the eyes, forehead, and mouth of the iron shell lobster. After killing the iron shell lobster, Yi Chun did not care too much. Although it was at rank 10, there were strong and weak ones among the rank 10 sea beasts. The iron shell lobster's battling power was at most the same as a normal spirit warrior, or even slightly weaker. Only its defense was a bit stronger. On the other side, 3 of the 30 young water apes had been killed. Go to hell. Kong Xiaoyi rushed out of the battle formation, his eyes bloodthirsty. Go back. Yi Chun came back in time and pushed Kong Xiaoyi back to his original position. At the same time, a new round of Lotus Heart sword qi blossomed, and the sword qi tornado ravaged the group of iron shell lobsters. Pooh! 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 Even the rank 10 iron shell lobsters could not handle the sword qi tornado of Yi Chun, not to mention the rank 7 and 8 iron shell lobsters. All of a sudden, more than 50 iron shell lobsters had been shredded into pieces by the sword qi tornado. Not even their bones were left behind. Putting away the pellet, Yi Chun was just about to scold Kong Xiaoyi when the sound of the horn was heard. Hearing the sound, the soldiers of the South Shallow Ocean Alliance started to back out. The soldiers of the Deep Ocean did not chase after them either, and started to back out as well. The first battle had ended just like that. Chapter 501. Inside the camp of the water ape race, the second master saw that Sun Xiaojin and Yi Chun had returned safely, so he let out a breath and asked, "Did any of you fall?" Kong Xiaowei said with a sad face, "Sun Xinqi, Kong Xiaoxia, and Kong Xiaoyan are all dead." Kong Xiaoyan was his lover, which was why he had been so impulsive. The second master sighed. There will definitely be deaths in the war. Right now, the Alliance is counting the casualties. But we water ape race lost 43 warriors, and you only lost 3. It is already out of my expectation. Kong Xiaowei glanced at Yi Chun. If it were not for him, he would have been dead for sure, and a lot of the other young water apes would have died as well. After half an hour, the death toll had been tallied. A total of 8,545 soldiers had died, which was about 1/30th of the entire army. Among them, there were more than 300 rank 9 sea beasts, 20 rank 10 sea beasts, and nearly 40 sea of soul realm experts. This is so cruel. One battle, and so many rank 9 and 10 beasts have died, as well as Sea of Souls realm warriors. If they were grouped together, they would be able to take out dozens of rank 6 martial institutions. But this amount of casualties should be nothing for the South Shallow Ocean Alliance, right? After all, there are more than 3,000 different forces in the South Shallow Ocean Alliance, including 6 rank 5 forces. The South Shallow Ocean was about 1/3 of the whole true spirit continent. So, it was not hard to imagine how many of them would survive. Letting out a breath, Yi Chun looked at the water apes in the camp, wondering how many of them would survive after the battle. Of course, he would not be able to see it. This battle would last at least 3 to 5 years, and it might even last for 10 to 20 years. He would not be able to stay here for a long time. Once he stabilized his power completely and could not make another breakthrough, it would be time for him to go back to the continent. The first battle was huge, so there were a lot of casualties. In the following period of time, the scale of the battles had decreased a lot, and they were all small fights. You would send out a team to attack, and the other would send out a team to harass you. The two sides were very patient. 62. Yi Chun carved 6 yuan characters on the wooden board of the camp. The 7th one only had 2 strokes, so there were 62 of them in total, which meant that he had killed 62 enemies. This was the tradition of the Water Ape clan, and also the proof of hard work. Turning his head to look at Sun Xiaojin's wooden board, Yi Chun shook his head and smiled bitterly. Sun Xiaojin was indeed a battle maniac. The number of enemies he had killed was more than twice of his own. In just 2 months of fighting, he had killed more than 140 people, and most of them were killed in the first battle. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! An ear-piercing sound reverberated in the vicinity. All the water apes rushed out, their bodies surrounded by murderous auras, and their eyes were bloodshot. Yi Chun was not too nervous. He had experienced this kind of sneak attack several times. Second Grandpa's son had also led them to sneak attack the deep-sea forces twice. Because there were way too many Alliance soldiers, and they were scattered all over the place, sometimes when one camp was attacked, the other camps would not be able to get there in time. By the time they got there, the enemies would have already left. Therefore, when they were attacked, they would have to fight back with all their might and wait for the reinforcements. Or if they were powerful enough, they would not need reinforcements. But if they were not powerful enough, and the enemies were too powerful, the result would be very miserable. After all, the enemies had chosen a sneak attack, so they would definitely bring a lot of warriors with them. There were over 1,000 bloodthirsty octopuses charging over. The bloodthirsty octopuses' bodies were as big as mountains, and their 8 tentacles were incredibly long. The most terrifying thing was that even if the bloodthirsty octopus's tentacles were cut off, they would continue to grow, giving them a trace of an undying body. Boom! However, the first one to attack was not the bloodthirsty octopuses, but Sun Xiaojin in his battle mode. His body was 3,000 meters tall, and with one punch, wind, fire, thunder, and water gathered together. One of the octopuses did not have the time to dodge or defend, and was turned into pieces directly. The rest of the octopuses were furious. Their bodies were surrounded by the blood-red beast power, and countless tentacles attacked. You are looking for death. Although the octopuses were hard to deal with, there was more than just one camp of the water ape race. There were 7 or 8 camps nearby, and the total number of soldiers was almost 1,500, which was a bit more than the octopuses. Therefore, seeing the octopuses attack, all of them fought back. Shoo! Yi Chun waved out a sword attack, and the sword chi cut off a huge number of octopus tentacles. These octopuses found out that after being cut off, their tentacles could not be recovered right away, as if something was draining their life force away. The more I kill, the more powerful my slaughter element is. On the battlefield, Yi Chun would only use his slaughter sword intent. He rarely used his destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent, because the slaughter sword intent would not be any weaker than the other 2 sword intents. It would be much easier for him to deal with the ocean beasts. Plus, after a long time of killing, Yi Chun's slaughter element seemed to have changed a bit. The killing chi contained within it seemed to be something that even the octopuses, which had super recovery abilities, could not do anything to. Shoo! Another sword chi shot out, and another 2 octopuses were cut into pieces. This battle did not last for long. After about 15 minutes, the octopuses left behind dozens of dead bodies and retreated quickly, which prevented the reinforcement forces from attacking. In the blink of an eye, 8 months had passed. Including the first 2 months, this battle had been going on for a full 10 months. The number of casualties on both sides was more than 50,000. Do not underestimate this number, because in these 10 months, there had only been 3 large-scale battles. One was on the first day, one was 4 months ago, and one was 3 days ago. The rest of the time, they were just probing each other. After each probing, the number of casualties was at most a few hundred and at least a dozen. Moreover, there might not even be a probing battle in a week. Therefore, out of the 50,000 casualties, more than half were caused by these 3 large-scale battles. Inside the water ape races camp, Yi Chun had carved 32 yuan characters on his wooden board, which meant that he had killed 320 enemies, while Sun Xiaojin had killed 550 enemies. It was easy to see that the gap between Yi Chun and Sun Xiaojin was shrinking. At the beginning, Sun Xiaojin had killed twice as many enemies as Yi Chun, but now, it was not even twice as much. Inside the soundproof tent belonging to Yi Chun was sitting on the ground with his legs crossed, meditating with his eyes closed. His body was shrouded in a murderous aura. This aura was formless and formless, traceless and traceless. However, a single glance at it would definitely cause one to shiver. This aura was too terrifying. It was as if it could invade one's mind, cutting one's soul and killing one's life. Who? All of a sudden, the killing chi fluctuated and poured into Yi Chun's forehead. Inside the sea of soul, all of the killing chi rushed in. Each strand after strand of it was imprinted on an ancient longsword's sword spirit embryo. As the killing chi continued to imprint, the ancient longsword started to change. Not only did the sword body gradually turn a bloodthirsty red, but the sword intent radiance it was emitting also changed from silver to light red. It was the color of killing, the color of cruelty. As the killing chi completely imprinted on the ancient longsword, the sea of soul nearby fluctuated again, and a new ancient longsword was born. Chapter 502. Slaughter Sword Soul Embryo. 2 great sword soul embryos. Yi Chun opened his eyes, and 2-foot-long beams of light shot out. Originally, Yi Chun's sword soul embryo was just an ordinary sword soul embryo, which was no different from other sword artists. However, Yi Chun had mastered 3 great sword intents, which were immortal, destruction, and slaughter. These 3 great sword intents were hidden in his sea of soul, and with a single thought, he could brand them on his sword intents. However, it was precisely because of the additional sword intents in his sea of soul that it was extremely difficult to improve the sword soul embryo. It was as if something was hindering him from cultivating the sword soul embryo and achieving higher achievements in the sword Tao. But now, the slaughter intents hidden in his sea of soul had been completely branded on the sword soul embryo. In the future, When Yi Chun activated the Slaughter Sword Soul Embryo, it would directly be the Slaughter Sword intent, a pure Slaughter Sword intent. The Immortal and Destruction intents could no longer interfere with it. Of course, because it was a pure Slaughter Sword intent, its power was much stronger than before, and it had leapt to become the head of Yi Chun's sword intents. As for the other two intents, it was not that he could not use them for the time being, because another Sword Soul Embryo had appeared in his Sea of Soul. This Sword Soul Embryo was still an ordinary Sword Soul Embryo, and the sword intent it could activate was also an ordinary sword intent. Therefore, the Immortal and Destruction intents could be branded on the Sword Soul Embryo at any time. The Slaughter intents are already so powerful. If I brand the Destruction intents on the Sword Soul Embryo in the future, wouldn't it be even more powerful? The Immortal intents is the head of the three great intents, and it has an indelible effect. The reason why I can be so powerful in the Sword Soul Embryo is all because of the Immortal intents. With it, my foundation is incomparably firm. I wonder what will happen if I brand it on the Sword Soul Embryo. Yi Chun would never forget the power of the Immortal attribute. It allowed him to condense a Sword Soul Embryo in advance, allowing him to smoothly receive the Slaughter Sword intent impact of the Dual Sword King's will image, allowing him to resist the Destruction Sword intent impact of the Iron Sword King's will image. Without the Immortal attribute, his life would have been completely different, and he would have walked on a completely different path. However, the strangest thing is that my soul is able to bear two great Sword Soul Embryos. One is the Slaughter Sword Soul Embryo, and the other is a normal Sword Soul Embryo. If there is no accident, when the Destruction element is imprinted on the normal Sword Soul Embryo, there will be another normal Sword Soul Embryo. No wonder I have never heard of anyone who has two sword intents, because two sword intents will condense into two Sword Soul Embryos. How can the soul bear it? As for me, I should be an exception. Regardless of whether he was an exception or not, Yi Chun clearly knew that his path of willpower was the correct one. On this path, he was the king. Who? After participating in the battle for 10 months, it should be about time for me to go back. Sun Xiaojin and the other young water apes will also have to go back alive. As for what happens in the future, it has nothing to do with me. Thinking up to here, Yi Chun walked out of the tent. One day later, Yi Chun, Sun Xiaojin, and the surviving young water apes returned to the water ape cave through the conveyor gate. You are leaving? Inside the stone palace, Sun Tai was not surprised to hear the news. Yi Chun nodded and said, I have left the continent for almost 15 months. I have to go back. Adding the 2 months of training in Thunder City and the time spent on the road, it had been 18 months since the last tea gathering. 18 months was 1.5 years. In another half a year, it would be the date of the next tea gathering. This time, he would be the host. All right then. Be careful on the way, and do not be careless. Also, if you run into any trouble, my water ape race will help as much as possible. Sun Tai reminded. Many thanks for seeing your son's concern. Yi Chun will be careful. As for my 2 friends, I'll have to trouble the water ape race to take care of them. At this moment, Sun Xiaojin said, True Spirit Continent, I will go. I hope the next time I see you, we can fight to our heart's content. Of course. In that case, Yi Chun will take his leave. Leaving the water ape cave, Yi Chun arrived in the sky above the boundless ocean. Taking out his flying puppet, he leaped up and sat cross-legged. Shwa! The flying puppet flew at 10 times the speed of sound, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. 1 month later, South River region, Sky Cloud Sect. The Cool Breeze Mountain where the Sky Cloud Sect was located was the same as usual. The disciples who were doing missions were doing them, and those who were cultivating in an orderly manner. On the way up the mountain, there were many disciples coming and going, all chatting. Ever since Supreme Elder Yi Chun won the first place in the Hidden Dragon ranking, our Sky Cloud Sect's luck has been getting more and more prosperous. In the past few years, we've had 9 new Supreme Elders. The former Elder Luo Hanzhan has also become the sect leader, and the former sect leader has abdicated, becoming the Supreme Elder. Adding the original 3 Supreme Elders, our Sky Cloud Sect has 12 Supreme Elders in total, more than the Emerald Valley. Yeah, the Emerald Valley has 3 more Supreme Elders, which is far inferior to us. The North Snow Academy is a bit more impressive, having 4 more. Our Sky Cloud sect became a 7th grade sect a year ago. I don't know when we'll become a 6th grade sect. After all, the higher we go, the more Supreme Elders we'll have, which is a bit inappropriate. Once we become a 6th grade sect, the Supreme Elders will become Intersect Elders. This is too difficult. A 6th grade sect must have enough astral reaching experts. Our Sky Cloud sect is still lacking. Most importantly, a 6th grade sect must have a Sea of Soul Realm expert. No rush. Supreme Elder Yi Chun is 24 years old this year. In a few years, he will certainly become a Sea of Soul Realm expert. At that time, our Sky Cloud sect will have enough astral reaching experts. Naturally, we will become a 6th grade sect and become the 7th 6th grade sect in the whole South River region. As a disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School, everyone was very proud. The current Sky Cloud Martial School was too powerful. There were 12 Supreme Elders, more than 200 Inner Elders, and more than 500 Outer Elders. There were still a few core disciples, but there were more than 2,000 inner disciples and more than 10,000 outer disciples. Compared to the past, the strength of the Sky Cloud Martial School was more than doubled. And the source of all this was Yi Chun. Without Yi Chun, the Sky Cloud sect wouldn't have such a bright fate. Without Yi Chun, there wouldn't be so many people joining the sect. Without Yi Chun, the disciples wouldn't be so diligent. After all, everyone in Windy Nation and even the whole South River region was trying their best to catch up to Yi Chun. How could the disciples of the Sky Cloud sect be willing to fall behind? One Yi Chun had transformed the entire Sky Cloud sect. If the founder of the sect were to come back to life, he would probably be scared to death. It was too astonishing. Swish! At the end of the horizon, a black shadow was approaching at an extreme speed. In the blink of an eye, it was still far away, but in the blink of an eye, the disciples ascending and descending the mountain could already see its true form. It was a huge demonic beast. The aura emitted from its body was several times stronger than that of the Supreme Elders. Especially its speed, it was several times faster than the speed of sound. As for how many times the speed of sound, they couldn't even guess. It was unimaginably fast. What kind of demonic beast is this? Is it coming to attack the Sky Cloud sect? Hurry up and report. This demonic beast is at least peak 8th grade, equivalent to a peak late astral reaching expert. Hearing these words, all the disciples turned pale. No, there's someone up there. It's a blue-robed youngster with a long sword at his waist. His appearance is delicate and handsome. How come he looks so much like the Supreme Elder Yi Chun? Yeah, I think so too. Although most of the disciples in the Sky Cloud Martial School had never seen Yi Chun, it did not stop them from seeing Yi Chun's portrait. With Yi Chun's fame, how could he not have a portrait? Especially in the Sky Cloud Martial School, it was not difficult to see Yi Chun's portrait. As for the Ancestral Hall, it had only been built a few years ago. Inside, there were portraits of the previous patriarchs of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Yi Chun was the only person who was not the patriarch, but still had his portrait in the Ancestral Hall. It's Great Elder Yi Chun. Look at his sleeves. There's our Sky Cloud Martial School's cloud pattern there. Plus his appearance. Who else could it be other than Great Elder Yi Chun? Supreme Elder Yi Chun is back. The people who saw this scene went crazy and ran up the mountain desperately. Idle Cloud Peak. Cloud Dreamer and Thunder Freer walked out side by side. Next to them was Luo Xinglia, who was also a Supreme Elder. What a powerful sword chi. I've never seen such a sword chi in my life. It's even more powerful than ordinary Sea of Soul Realm experts. Cloud Dreamer sucked in a deep breath. Who could it be? Thunder Freer said solemnly. Swish! The huge demonic beast's flying speed was as fast as a shooting star. After a few blinks, it appeared above the Idle Cloud Peak. Then, it suddenly disappeared, and a blue silhouette descended. It's not a demonic beast. Could it be a puppet? Luo Xinglia was astonished. A real demonic beast couldn't be stored in a storage ring. Senior Cloud Dreamer, Senior Thunder Freer, Patriarch, Yi Chun is back. The blue silhouette was like a phantom as it appeared in front of the three. "It's Yi-chun." Cloud Dreamer's eyes widened. "Ha, Yi-chun, you're back." Thunder Freer was stunned at first, then burst into laughter. "Supreme Elder Yi-chun is back. We just saw him." "Are you serious? He hasn't been back for so many years. Why would I lie to you? Let's go take a look." All of a sudden, the whole Sky Cloud sex atmosphere exploded. This kind of scene was even more frightening than the night before a great battle. 1-to-1, 100-to-100. In less than a quarter of an hour, everyone knew that Yi-chun had returned. Sky Cloud Sex main hall. Luo Hanshan cried out involuntarily. "What? Yi-chun is back." Swish. In the next moment, Luo Hanshan left the elders in the main hall and rushed toward the idle cloud peak. He knew that Yi-chun would go there first. "Yi-chun is back." Zhang Haoran and Wu Zhongming exchanged a glance and hurriedly left the main hall. "Yi-chun, it's really you." As soon as he arrived at the idle cloud peak, Luo Hanshan saw Yi-chun. He was still wearing blue robes, still handsome and elegant. The only thing that had changed was his temperament. What kind of temperament was this? Although he was trying to hide it, that invisible sword chi still made Luo Hanshan's scalp go numb. Not only him, even Cloud Dreamer, Thunder Freer, and Luo Xinglia seemed a bit reserved next to Yi-chun. It had nothing to do with identity or friendship. This was the first time they had met each other. Yi-chun smiled. "Congratulations on becoming the leader of Sky Cloud Sect." Chapter 503. Lu Hanshan shook his head and forced a smile. "If it were possible, I would rather someone else be the leader. But my talent is only SOSO. I might have the chance to reach the peak of late astral reaching realm in this lifetime, but I will never be able to reach the Sea of Souls realm. Even the top geniuses of the continent need many years to reach the Sea of Souls realm. Even if I were given 20 or 30 years, I would still not be able to reach the Sea of Souls realm." Lu Hanshan had thought for a long time about whether he should be the leader or not, but he eventually agreed. Not everyone could progress as fast as Yi-chun, and not everyone could become the leader of the sect by working hard. He was already very satisfied with his current achievements. Yi-chun said, "You should be the leader of the sect. In the future, if there is an opportunity for me, it might not be the same for you." Lu Hanshan was currently at the peak of early astral reaching realm, and astral reaching realm warriors had a lifespan of 200 years. There was still a long way to go. Who would dare to say that he would stop at the astral reaching realm for the rest of his life? Of course, the hope of reaching the Sea of Souls realm was indeed very slim, and nobody could deny this fact. "Thank you for your kind words." Soon, Zhu Mei, Zhang Haoran, and Wu Zhongming arrived. Zhu Mei and Zhang Haoran had already reached the astral reaching realm. The former was at the mid-astral reaching realm, while the latter was at the peak of early astral reaching realm. As for Wu Zhongming, he was still at the peak of late clasping Yuan realm. Zhu Mei and Zhang Haoran faintly nodded to the three supreme elders. Their status was similar, so nodding at each other was a greeting. Wu Zhongming, on the other hand, called them supreme elders. Finally, the three's gazes landed on Yi-chun. This aura, it is not like the Sea of Souls realm. It is even more powerful. Zhu Mei's cultivation was even higher than Lu Hanshan's, and was at the same level as Cloud Dreamer and Thunder Freer. With her exceptional eyesight, she could tell that Yi-chun was not ordinary at all. 2 years ago, she was fortunate enough to meet a Sea of Souls realm warrior, but his aura was clearly not as powerful as Yi-chun's. "You three, long time no see. You've all made great progress." Yi-chun was also sizing up the three at the same time, and said with a smile. Zhu Mei jokingly said, "Do you know how shocked South Ridra region and Windy Nation were when the news of you defeating Astral Spirit Son, Chu Zhongqian, and drawing a tie with Edict Princely Xiaoyan spread? A lot of people are saying that you are a true dragon, and that you're the #1 genius of South Ridra region. Right now, all the big sects have your portrait, and only the core disciples are allowed to see it to motivate them." Wu Zhongming also said with a smile, "That's right. Now, as long as I wander around in the martial world, people will come to befriend me and ask about you." Zhang Haoran is even more miserable. The story of you competing with him has become a legend in the martial world. People say that you walked over the corpses of geniuses. Zhang Haoran's mouth twitched, but he was not unhappy, because he had long since given up on competing with Yi Chun. In fact, people talking about him and Yi Chun together was already praising him. His biggest goal from now on was to step into the sea of Soul's realm, and he would work hard for it. Yi Chun suddenly sighed. 9 years had passed in the blink of an eye. 9 years ago, he was still an odd-job disciple, not even an outer disciple. Then, he climbed up step by step. Outer disciple, inner disciple, elder, supreme elder. The past was like a dream, vivid in his mind. 9 years had passed, and everyone had grown up. At least, they could no longer be described as youngsters. Thinking back to the past, how could Yi Chun not sigh with emotion? He sighed at how the passage of time had changed everyone, turning them from ignorant youngsters into ambitious youngsters. The only thing that made Yi Chun a bit helpless was that everyone seemed a lot more distant when they met again. Luo Han's Han, Zhu Mei, Wu Zongming, and Zhang Haoran were all like strangers. Although they still looked the same on the surface, Yi Chun's observational ability was extremely sharp. He could tell with a glance that they were a bit uneasy. This time, apart from checking on the situation of the martial school and you guys, the second thing is to prepare for the next martial tea gathering. Retracting his sigh, Yi Chun said. Luo Hanshan's eyes brightened. We can participate in the martial tea gathering. He naturally knew that he was not powerful enough, but Yi Chun was the host of the next martial tea gathering. Perhaps, as long as he agreed, he would be able to let them participate. Who didn't know what it meant to participate in the martial tea gathering? Not only could it broaden one's vision, it could also stimulate one's hidden potential. Through some rumors, he knew that people from the South River region who had participated in the last martial tea gathering had trained extremely hard and made great progress after coming back. Yi Chun shook his head. The martial tea gathering has its own rules, which cannot be broken. Otherwise, in the long run, the level of the martial tea gathering would drop. Hearing him, Luo Han's Han, Zhu Mei, and even Zhang Haoran were a bit sad. Indeed, the martial tea gathering was not a place to open a back door. However, the host of the martial tea gathering has a special privilege. He can choose 50 people to watch the tea gathering from afar. In the last tea gathering, there were 50 people watching the tea gathering from a tower in the Splendid Garden. Of course, they were 10 li away from the venue. However, this distance was still acceptable for astral-reaching experts. It was just that they couldn't get a closer feel of the atmosphere, that's all. Really, I should be able to be chosen. Luo Han's Han was extremely nervous. Cloud Dreamer and the other two couldn't help but laugh. The current Luo Han's Han didn't look like the leader at all, but it was understandable since he was still young. Yi Chun didn't answer directly, but asked, how many people in my Sky Cloud sect who have already reached the astral reaching realm before the age of 30? Zhu Mei said, 4 in total. Me, Luo Han's Han, Zhang Haoran, and Meng Chong. There are also many people who have reached half-step Jin Yuan. Oh, Meng Chong has also reached the astral reaching realm? Yi Chun was a bit surprised, but soon felt relieved. Even Zhang Haoran had entered, so there was no reason for Meng Chong not to. His talent was even higher than Zhang Haoran's. Speaking of which, for astral-reaching experts under the age of 30 was still a bit too little. But that was because Yi Chun had set his sights too high, comparing the Sky Cloud sect to a rank 6 sect. For a rank 6 sect, for new astral-reaching experts were indeed pitifully little. They would need at least a dozen. Wu Zongming, I'm sorry. Privilege is privilege, but privilege also has a bottom line. Yi Chun looked at Wu Zongming apologetically. Wu Zongming said carelessly, Yi Chun, I am not unhappy. Even if you asked me to go and watch, I would not go. Otherwise, people would say that our South River region does not even have enough young astral-reaching realm warriors, and that we brought a peak-level late clasping Yuan realm warrior. Hee, it's good that you think like that. Pausing for a second, Yi Chun said to Luo Han's Han and the other two, you four can go watch the martial tea gathering together. I will build a tower in the heavy, mysterious mountain. Luo Han's Han let out a breath, then suddenly thought of something. Yi Chun, you rarely come back. Can you meet the disciples of the sky, Cloud Martial School on the plaza? It won't take long. Just a few words will do. You know, a lot of people have never seen you before, and they have always wanted to see you in person. Sure. Yi-chun hesitated for a second, then nodded. Meeting someone was a small thing for him, but could satisfy thousands of people's wishes. Once in a while, it would be fine. On the huge plaza, there was an ocean of people. All the disciples of the sky, Cloud Martial School had arrived, as well as attendants, outer elders, inner elders, leaders, and great elders. At this moment, the Sky Cloud Martial School was defenseless. Of course, no one would be stupid enough to invade the Sky Cloud Martial School. It's the great elder, Yi-chun. I finally got to see him in person. I'm so excited. So young, only in his 20s. How great would it be if I could marry him? Being so close to a legendary figure, I feel like I'm dreaming. All the disciples of the Sky Cloud Martial School were so excited, and so were the elders. They felt like they had become much younger, especially when Yi-chun looked at them. Standing behind him were the leader of the school, Luhan's Han, and 12 great elders. Yi-chun cleared his throat to calm everyone down. As if he had some kind of magic power, the previously noisy plaza suddenly quieted down. Even the sound of a needle dropping on the ground could be heard. 9 years ago, I was still a servant disciple. In the same year, I worked hard to become an outer disciple, then an inner disciple. Back then, I was just like you, working hard to become a powerful warrior. Now, I have already succeeded half of it, and I am working hard for the other half. Therefore, as long as you work hard, you can also succeed. Perhaps your achievements will be limited, but as long as you work hard, you will not regret it. Abruptly, Yi-chun pulled out his long sword. His blue robe and long hair fluttered in the air as he swung his sword towards the sky above the windy mountain. Boom! The sword chi swept across the sky. The clouds in the sky were torn apart, and the protective screen of the stunning sky was split open. At first glance, the sky seemed to have been completely split open by this sword attack. The crack was tens of thousands of meters long and tens of meters wide. Including the 12 great elders, everyone gasped in shock. What kind of power was this? Standing on the ground, he was able to split open the stunning sky with a single sword attack, causing the sky to change color and thunder to roar. Invisible sword chi coiled around Yi-chun's body. A gigantic dragon formed from dragon fountain chi rushed up from the base of the windy mountain and enveloped Yi-chun. Yi-chun glanced around and said, I hope that one day, all of you can reach this level. Do you have the confidence? Yes. Their voices reached to the sky and shook the entire area. Together with the gigantic dragon on Yi-chun's body, the scene became an eternal picture. All right, today's meeting is over. You all work hard. After that, Yi-chun finished his speech. Next, Luhan's Han started to disperse the crowd, even though many of them did not want to leave. At the same time, all of the martial institutions in the Windy Nation had sensed the change in the Sky Cloud Martial School. The Dragon Fountain chi rushing up was way too powerful. In the South River Martial School, Long Bai looked towards the direction of the Sky Cloud Martial School. He's actually able to make the Dragon Vein chi appear. Just what level has he reached? Once the Dragon Fountain chi left the hidden Dragon Ancient City, it would hide itself, and no one would be able to sense it. But now, the whole area around the Sky Cloud Martial School had changed drastically. Dragon roars could be heard, and that dragon's power was even more shocking. Even Long Bai was shocked. No genius had ever made her lose her composure like this. A dragon has entered the ocean. A real dragon has entered the ocean. Long Bai sighed. North Snow Martial Academy. Lynch was staring at the southwest direction, where the Sky Cloud Martial School was located. The former leader of the North Snow Martial Academy, who was now the Great Elder, Shui Warren, walked over and said, Being able to live in the same era as him is your sorrow, but also your great fortune. As for the Emerald Martial Palace, more people were lost and felt bitter. Chapter 504. After staying in the Sky Cloud Martial School for a day, Yi-chun rushed to the Yi family in Luo City the next morning. The Sky Cloud Martial School was 12,000 miles away from Luo City. When he was still an outer disciple, it took Yi-chun half a month to go home for the first time. But now, riding on the flying puppet, it only took him half an hour. If he didn't ride on the flying puppet and use the sword-light flying skill, the time would be even shorter. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the sky above Luo City, the flying puppet slowly descended. Its huge wings kept flapping, creating a whirlwind. Young Master Chun is back. When Yi-chun jumped down from the flying puppet and stood in front of the Yi family's gate, the thousands of people in the Yi family all started to move. Some prepared for the banquet, some came out to welcome him, and some cleaned the yard. It was a very busy scene. Chun'er. As soon as Yi-chun entered the gate, Yi Tianhao and Shun Yuqing already walked over. Beside them were a boy and a girl about 6 or 7 years old. They looked very similar to the young Yi-chun. Father, mother. A gentle smile bloomed on Yi-chen's face. It was the smile of a son returning home. He then greeted the other elders. Good, good. At this moment, Yi Tianhao couldn't say anything. He kept repeating the word good, and then looked at Yi-chun with all his might. It seemed like he wanted to see how his son had changed in the past few years. Shun Yuqing grabbed Yi-chen's hand. His eyes were red. You little bastard. You didn't come home even once in a few years. Do you miss your father and me? Yi Tianhao came back to his senses. He glared at Shun Yuqing and said contradictory words. Our son is a man who will do great things. How can I come back just like that? But Chun'er, if you have time, you still have to come back. All right. Yi-chun felt warmth in his heart. After all, the people of the Sky Cloud Martial School were not related to him by blood. After a long time, they would become estranged from each other. However, home would always be home, and parents would always be parents. They would not become distant just because their son had become stronger. Big brother. Carrie. Perhaps it was because they were related by blood, or perhaps it was because they contained a trace of Yi-chun's dragon vein chi. But the boy and the girl recognized Yi-chun at first glance. They were not shy at all, hugging Yi-chun's thigh and shaking it vigorously, clamoring for him to hug them. Their rosy cheeks and watery eyes were very lovable. Chuckling, Yi-chun picked up the little boy and the little girl, one in each hand, and said to Yi Tianhao and Shun Yuqing, Father, mother, I've made you worry. Little Xian and little Xiao, be good. Hearing this, Shun Yuqing's expression was incomparably happy. Hearing this, he said, Little Xiao is a bit better, but Xian is a troublemaker and will soon become the tyrant of Luo City. Yi-chun looked at Yi Xian. Little Xian, is it true? Big brother, I did not bully anyone. Yi Xian lowered his head, afraid that Yi-chun would not like him. Bullying people is wrong. As time goes by, people will not like you and will gradually hate you. Do you want everyone to dislike you? Of course, Big Brother is not asking you to be bullied without fighting back. As long as you do not take the initiative to bully others, it will be fine. Got it, Big Brother. Yi Xiao giggled to the side. Seeing Yi Xian being humiliated made her very happy. Chun'er, I've already asked people to prepare a banquet. Let's go inside and talk. Yi Tianhao said. Okay. Yi-chun carried Yi Xian and Yi Xiao and followed behind. The banquet lasted until late at night. Yi Batian also attended the banquet. As for Yi Tang, he was still in the Emerald Valley, while Yi Feng had joined the South Ridra sect. Ever since the destruction of the Purple Sun sect, the disciples and elders of the Purple Sun sect had either joined the South Ridra sect or the Emerald Valley. Very few joined the Sky Cloud sect, mainly because there were too many conflicts in the past. Yi-chun no longer cared about Yi Batian. According to his father, Yi Batian had completely changed. He had started to think about the family in all aspects, and his relationship with everyone had greatly changed. Therefore, if he continued to care about it, he would seem petty. Moreover, he was no longer the little genius of the past. Although the current him was not invincible in the South Ridra region, there was almost no one who could threaten him. His goal was the entire continent and the endless ocean. Tangling with some past conflicts would undoubtedly be too narrow-minded. The past was the past, and the most important thing was the future. By the time Yi-chan returned to the Sky Cloud sect, the news had already spread like wildfire. On the 7th day of his return, the entire Windy Nation knew that Yi Chun had returned. The originally somewhat peaceful Jianghu once again exploded. Many people rushed to Luo City from far away or to some nearby towns just to catch a glimpse of Yi Chen's true appearance. Looking at the overcrowded Luo City, the Luo City Lord and the Yi family's patriarch, Yi Tianhao, felt somewhat helpless. However, deep down, they were actually quite proud, especially the former. He didn't have much of a relationship with Yi Chun, so he cherished the honor he received from Yi Chun even more. He firmly believed that as long as he did his best and didn't abuse his power, Yi Tianhao wouldn't let him step down. Moreover, Luo City's prospects were too good. He had already begun to discuss with Yi Tianhao about expanding Luo City and making it into a city comparable to the royal city. As for the Windy Nation's emperor, he would definitely support it. Nowadays, who would dare to offend the Yi family of Luo City? Moreover, Yi Chen's statue had been built in the Luo City's central plaza since the day before yesterday. According to the scale, it would be 100 meters tall golden statue. Big brother Yi Chun. In the hall of Yi Chen's courtyard, a lot of people had gathered. The one who spoke was fourth uncle Yi Wenhao's daughter, Yi Xian. Yi Xian was half a year younger than Yi Chun and was already 23 years old. She had a dignified appearance and a tall and slender figure. However, standing in front of Yi Chun, she seemed very reserved and would sneak glances at him from time to time. Yi Chun faintly smiled. Little Xian, let bygones be bygones. There's no need to blindly think about it. Right now, you're also a mediocre late clasping Yuan realm martial artist. Try a bit harder and advance to astral reaching realm as soon as possible. Don't tell me you don't have any confidence. I will. Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. The pressure Yi Chun gave her was too great. Sitting there, she almost couldn't breathe. This wasn't because Yi Chun was doing it on purpose, but because she had too many distracting thoughts in her mind. Some elders and juniors of Yi family didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure in front of Yi Chun. They only felt that Yi Chun was very lofty. Yi Chunwei, Yi Tang, and Yi Feng both looked at Yi Chun nervously. Yi Chun was a bit helpless as he smiled at them. You guys are the same. As long as you think about the family, it will be fine. Of course, the most important thing is to increase your own power. Only by increasing your power can you strengthen the family and protect the family, because you guys are just like me, part of the family. Thank you, Yi Chun. Yi Tang and Yi Feng were both embarrassed, feeling that they were very childish before. All right, where's Yi Hai? Yi Hai was the one who had a good relationship with Yi Chun, and he had even given him a Yuan light ball. Yi Tianhao said, Yi Hai is the same as you. After he left with his master, he hasn't come back yet. His parents are always thinking about him. Sigh. Hearing him, Yi Chun frowned. If Yi Hai were still in South Ridra region, it wouldn't be a problem. But if you were to leave South Ridra region, then he wouldn't be able to find out anything. What he was most afraid of was running into some kind of danger. If there's a chance in the future, I'll ask someone to ask around. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. Apart from cultivating every day, Yi Chun spent most of his time chatting with his parents and siblings, trying to make up for the many years he owed them. During this time, South Ridra sect's leader, Long Bai, personally came with 3 youngsters. They were Rain hero Nangong Yun and Yuan Xuemei, as well as a disciple that Yi Chun didn't recognize. Without exception, all 3 had entered astral reaching realm. Their purpose was very simple: to select the 50 spectators for the martial tea gathering. Without saying a word, Yi Chun approved all of them. Long Bai and Dragon God, Celestial Palace's kindness to Yi Chun would never be forgotten by Yi Chun. After South Ridra sect, North Snow Martial Academy was next. North Snow Martial Academy also had 3 young experts who had entered astral reaching realm. They were young Master North Snow, Su Wan, Quick Blade Lynch, and Tyrant Blade Yu. Su Wan was currently the leader of North Snow Martial Academy, and his cultivation base was at mid-astral reaching realm. Yu was at early astral reaching realm. As for the ordinary-looking Lynch, his cultivation base was the highest, reaching late astral reaching realm. His body was suffused with a trace of sharp and formless blade chi. Lynch, your blade intent has already reached perfection. You have the strength to participate in a martial tea gathering. How powerful was Yi Chen's eyesight? Even if Lynch intentionally hid his blade intent, it couldn't escape Yi Chen's senses. Shui Warren, who had abdicated as Supreme Elder, smiled and said, "Yi Chen, I wonder what level Lynch is at in the martial tea gathering." Yi Chen said in a low voice, "I don't know this time, but last time, it should be low grade." Hearing these words, the faces of everyone in the hall changed, including those of Yi family. There was no one in Windy Nation who didn't know Lynch's strength. In fact, if there were no Yi Chen, Lynch would definitely be the #1 expert in Windy Nation. This kind of strength was actually low grade in the martial tea gathering. Moreover, it was last time. Just how high was the level of this martial tea gathering? It was simply unheard of. Finally, people from the Emerald Martial School arrived. There were 3 of them. One was the leader of the Emerald Martial School, Zhuang Qingxian. One was Lu Wuxiang, and the last one was Ji Xuan. Young Master Emerald Zhuang Fei was naturally also an astral reaching expert, but he didn't come. Ever since Yi Chen's complete rise, Zhuang Qingxian had already given up on dominating Windy Nation. Therefore, he abdicated to Lu Wuxiang, making him the new leader. Lu Wuxiang was a peaceful person, neither arrogant nor rash, which made him worthy of being the leader. Yi Chen, we are all from the same Windy Nation. I wonder if our leader Lu Wuxiang and Ji Xuan have the right to enter the top 50? The new martial tea gathering would be held in a few months, and all the martial institutions had gradually learned about the privileges of the hosts. Therefore, Zhuang Qingxian had thrown away his pride and brought his people here. In fact, he was quite worried, not knowing if Yi Chen would refuse right away or not. Yi Chen nodded. 2 or 3. 3. The other one is my son, Zhuang Fei. Zhuang Qingxian said carefully. Sure. Yi Chen had originally planned to let all the young astral-reaching experts of Windy Nation watch the martial tea gathering, regardless of who it was. Of course, if they didn't come, he wouldn't take the initiative to include them. After all, apart from Windy Nation, there were many young astral-reaching experts in South River region. Standing beside Zhuang Qingxian, Ji Xuyan's expression was extremely complicated. She bit her lower lip and blankly stared at Yi Chen, looking at the little youngster who had now become a peerless genius of South River region. At this moment, Yi Chen's gaze also shifted to Ji Xuyan. Chapter 505. In the air, the two's gazes intersected. From Ji Xuyan's gaze, Yi Chen felt a trace of regret, apology, and some indescribable emotions. She didn't choose to avoid it either, opening up her heart. Ji Xuyan saw firmness in Yi Chen's gaze, as well as an exuberant power that could shatter everything. Before this power, everything else seemed so insignificant, like a sparrow looking up at a great pung spreading its wings to the 9 heavens. Is this the reason for your current accomplishments? Ji Xuyan was shaken by Yi Chen's ambition. His ambition seemed boundless and limitless. How could a person with this kind of ambition lower himself to her level? He had long since forgotten the matters of the past. So, it was my own wishful thinking all along. Ji Xuyan felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders, but why did she feel a sense of loss? However, this was no longer important. From now on, she would live for herself. She wasn't willing to sink into depravity. She didn't want to stop at astral reaching realm in the future. She wanted a vaster sky. Even if she couldn't soar to the 9 heavens, she would spread her wings with all her might. Take care. Yi Chen's words baffled everyone present. Only Ji Xuyan knew what he meant. He had seen through her thoughts. I will. Ji Xuyan nodded. A few days after the 3 left, the remaining 9th grade sects of Windy Nation sent people over. However, they were all rejected by Yi Chen. It wasn't that he didn't want to give them face, but that he had his own bottom line. Without reaching astral reaching realm, he wouldn't let them enter the top 50. Being so busy that he forgot about the quota of Windy Nation's young generation, Yi Chen had a rare few days of leisure. After all, the sects of other nations were a bit far from Windy Nation. On this day, beside the lake, Yi Chen was practicing his sword arts. After the last tea gathering, Yi Chun had a small gathering with the Thunder Princess and the other three. They had witnessed the achievements of the Thunder Princess in the Thunder mentality. However, Yi Chun's Sky Thundercut required him to fuse with the ninth style of the Sky Cloud Sword art. Therefore, he hadn't made any breakthroughs yet. Today, Yi Chun had a thought and started practicing by the lake. As he practiced and practiced, Yi Chun's feeling became more and more profound. He fused it with the state of thunder, and every sword strike was incomparably natural. It was as if there was really thunder and lightning in the sky, and there was not the slightest bit of awkwardness. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the seemingly ordinary natural environment was actually something he had yet to comprehend. He had only grasped the essence of the state of thunder, but in terms of application, he was still far from the natural world. Chi! A blue light flashed in the void, and the air was slowly cut open. The process was clearly visible. On the air profile, electric arcs flickered. There was no tyranny of thunder, only the nature of thunder. The ninth move has finally been fused successfully. The Sky Thundercut has officially become a profound martial skill. Letting out a breath slowly, Yi Chun put his sword back into its scabbard. However, there was not much joy on his face. Although the Sky Thundercut that had fused with the ninth movement of the Sky Cloud Sword art had become a profound martial skill, it was only at 50% completion. That was because Yi Chun had not learned the Thunder Profound yet. Without it, he would not be able to bring out the true power of the Sky Thundercut. It was like how a cleverest housewife could not cook a meal without rice. Once the Sky Thundercut has been completed, the Reverse Sky Thundercut has also become a profound martial skill. The two profound martial skills have both reached 50% completion. Together with the Gold Resonant Radiant Sword art, I now have 3 major killing attacks and 1 hidden ace attack. The hidden ace attack was the Sky Thundercut and the Reverse Sky Thundercut, which combined into a dual sword style. When the two attacks were stacked together, its power would be even more powerful than the Gold Resonant Radiant Sword art. Of course, if one had to be honest, the Sword Chi tornado formed by the Lotus Heart Sword Chi would be much more powerful. But the Lotus Heart Sword Chi was dead after all, and its potential was limited. All the sects of the Windy Nation had gone up. Next, it was the sects of the other nations in the South River region. For the sects of the other nations, Yi Chun had a new standard. No 6th grade sections, a 6th grade sect already had people who could participate in the tea gathering, so it would be too unreasonable for them to take up another quota. As for the sects below the 6th grade, each sect would only have 1 quota. After all, the Windy Nation had taken up 12 of the 50 spots, so there were not many left. Young warrior Yi, could you give us one more spot? My Iron Ruler School is willing to pay a huge price. The leader of the 7th grade sect of the Elephant Mountain Nation revealed an expectant expression. Yi Chun shook his head. No, your sect taking up 2 spots is equivalent to taking 1 from the other sections. All right then. Actually, he wasn't too disappointed. Having 1 spot was already enough for him. He thought that the spots would be given to the young generation of the Windy Nation or those on good terms with Yi Chun. Outside the gate of the Yi family, another group of people descended from the sky. The one in the lead had withered yellow hair, and it was hard to tell his age. His eyes seemed to be emitting light, and he exuded an imposing aura without being angry. Wherever he went, it was his home field, and Yuan Qi revolved around his body. This was a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Guests, this way please. The steward led the group toward the meeting hall. Arriving at the meeting hall, the yellow-haired old man didn't see anyone and said unhappily, "Where is Yi Chun?" "My apologies, young Master Chun is currently talking with people from other sections. Therefore, he told me to let the guests wait here. In that case, there's no need to trouble you. I'll go talk to him myself." The yellow-haired old man released his soul power and quickly found Yi Chun's location. He then led the group in that direction. The steward was anxious. He didn't care that the aura was suffocating him, so he chased after and said, "Young Master Chun said that no matter who you are, you have to wait here. Please obey." "Huh? You want me, a Sea of Soul Realm expert, to wait here for him? Can you bear the responsibility?" The yellow-haired old man glared at the steward. Dang, dang, dang. The steward retreated a couple of steps as blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. As a Sea of Soul Realm expert, the yellow-haired old man's gaze could already hurt people, not to mention the steward who was only a mid-clasping Yuan realm warrior. In the yard, Yi Chan sensed someone using his soul power to scan over. His brows creased, and his soul power traced back to the source. He happened to see the yellow-haired old man injuring the steward with a gaze that contained martial intent. A cold light flashed through his eyes. Footsteps could be heard as a group of people arrived at Yi Chen's yard. Entering the hall, the yellow-haired old man sized up Yi Chen. "You are Yi Chen." "Indeed." Yi Chen's gaze looked straight at the yellow-haired old man. "I'm the Supreme Elder of Moonflower Nation's 7th grade sect, Swallowing Moon Sect. These are my sect's 6 most outstanding youths. Let them enter the top 50. The yellow-haired old man's name was Huang Lin, and his nickname was Yellow-Haired Spiritualist. He had entered the Sea of Soul Realm in recent years. If not for the fact that Swallowing Moon Sect's astral-reaching experts were a bit lacking, he would have long announced to the outside world that Swallowing Moon Sect would become the 7th 6th grade sect in South River region. As a newly advanced Sea of Soul Realm expert, apart from being wild with joy, Huang Lin had become condescending, and his conduct had become increasingly tyrannical. He had volunteered to participate in this tea gathering, wanting to use his strength to fight for more quotas for his sect. He originally thought that Yi Chan would be apprehensive of his strength and would ponder for a while before finding a way out. Unexpectedly, Yi Chan didn't even think and directly said, "You can leave." "What do you mean?" Huang Lin's eyes narrowed. Yi Chan sneered. "My meaning is clear. Your Swallowing Moon sect doesn't have a single quota." "Impudent. Our Swallowing Moon sect Supreme Elder has already given you face. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." A Swallowing Moon sect's young generation angrily said. "Impudent." Yi Chan waved his hand, and the young man was sent flying while spurting blood. The other young men were both startled and angered. However, before they could do anything, they were also sent flying while spurting blood. Yi Chen's chi contained 2 layers of power. "You're provoking me." Huang Lin intended to teach Yi Chen a lesson. Don't think that just because you're the #1 genius of South River region, you're condescending and think too highly of yourself. Rip. Yi Chen didn't bother explaining. With a flick of his finger, a bullet-like lotus heart sword chi shot out. Pa! His protective Zhen Yuan shattered, and Huang Lin's shoulder was pierced. Damn it! The yellow-haired old man was shocked at first, then turned furious. He raised his Zhen Yuan, about to launch a fierce attack. Rip! Another lotus heart sword chi pierced through the yellow-haired old man's left shoulder. "If you don't get lost, I'll make you bleed." Yi Chen's cold voice was heard. "You!" Huang Lin was so embarrassed that his eyes had turned red. "Do you really want to die?" On the main seat, Yi Chen stood up. As he stood up, the sky above Luo City changed, and the sword chi was dense. Inside the hall, the yellow-haired old man only felt an invisible sword chi assaulting his face. The surrounding environment seemed to be fading away, turning into swords aimed at him. How is this possible? How can his strength be so horrifying? Huang Lin was disheartened, and the Zhen Yuan covering his whole body dispersed. He didn't even dare to look at Yi Chan. His previous arrogance had been completely shattered by Yi Chan, and all that was left was fear. He couldn't imagine how Yi Chan could be so powerful. He didn't even have the power to fight back, and had been wounded continuously. Especially the aura Yi Chan had just released. It made him feel like if he said no, his body would be separated from his body and torn apart by the sword chi. This realm had already surpassed his imagination. "Let's go." Huang Lin led the younger generation of the Swallowing Moon sect, who were dumbfounded and prepared to leave. "Don't forget to apologize to my Yi family's housekeeper." Behind him, Yi Chen's voice was like sword chi. Humiliation. At this moment, Huang Lin felt incomparably humiliated. However, no matter how humiliated he was, he had no choice but to comply. Apart from humiliation, he felt even more regret. If he had followed the normal procedure, he wouldn't have been humiliated, and he would have been able to obtain a quota for the sect. He had truly been blinded by lard. Outside the hall, Yi Xian was similarly dumbfounded. She had been back for a few days, and it was time for her to return to the Emerald Valley. Therefore, she wanted to say hello to Yi Chen. However, she didn't expect to see this scene. A Sea of Soul Realm expert was driven out by Yi Chen just like that. Moreover, Sea of Soul Realm was the realm she had always dreamed of, the goal she had always strived for. At this moment, Yi Chen's image in her heart became even more invincible. She knew that even if she entered the Sea of Soul Realm, she wouldn't have the qualifications to be arrogant. Chapter 506. Extreme Void. The second level of the 3 levels. If the first level of the astonishing sky was filled with all kinds of pure Yuan Qi, then the second level of the extreme void was formed by Yuan Qi. In the dusky, vast space, there were countless strange sights. People who came to the extreme void for the first time would definitely think that they had come to a different place. The most common thing in the extreme void were floating mountain peaks. Some were big, some were small, some were inverted cones, some were round, and there were even some that were connected into a complex shape. No matter what the shape of the mountain was, it was actually formed by pure earth Yuan Qi. On the mountain peaks, some were barren and full of potholes, while some were lush and green. The forest was naturally formed by the wood Yuan Qi. On some of the mountain peaks, there was only one big tree. The tree was so tall that it covered the entire sky like a huge umbrella. Apart from the common plants, there were also some unknown plants floating in the air. For example, there were vines that were tens of thousands of meters long. The vines were connected to the nearby mountain peaks, and there were house-sized flowers blooming on them. In the dusky space, there were also many green light ribbons. Looking from afar, these ribbons looked like strands, but when one got closer, one would realize that they were actually rivers formed by water Yuan Qi. These rivers crisscrossed, flowing from the mountain peaks, pouring down, passing through the sky, rushing, and then converging into an even bigger lake. This lake was just one of the thousands of lakes. In the sky, there were huge fireballs. It was because of these fireballs that the extreme void shone so brightly. Other things like metal Yuan Qi, wind Yuan Qi, thunder Yuan Qi, dark Yuan Qi, bone Yuan Qi, they all appeared in different forms. What a magical place! It was Yi Chen's first time in the extreme void, and he was very shocked. Even though he had heard about the extreme void from some places, it was not as shocking as seeing it for himself. He could not imagine how the extreme void worked. In the stunning sky, the speed of comprehending the will can be doubled. In the extreme void, the speed of comprehending the profound will can be doubled. I can see that the pure Yuan Qi is not something that can be casually condensed into anything. Otherwise, how could it be so profound? These things are all operated and maintained by the profound. Even a stone contains the shallow profound of earth, and a stream of water contains the shallow profound of water. The more complex it is, the deeper the profound it contains. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen activated his Zhen Yuan to fight against the Yuan Qi washing in the extreme void. The Yuan Qi of the extreme void sky was not as simple as it looked. It also contained a profound meaning. Without a certain level of defense, one would not be able to fight against it at all. Of course, first of all, one would have to be able to tear open the extreme void sky barrier and get in. The reason why Yi Chen was able to get in and stand still was because first, his attacking power was powerful enough, which allowed him to tear open the extreme void sky barrier easily. Second, he had trained his green lotus sword spell to its highest level, the 15th realm. Shoo! His speed was suppressed to 1 times the speed of sound. Yi Chen borrowed the power from the surreal space and flew to a floating inverted cone-shaped mountain peak. The metal Yuan Qi is normally hidden in the earth Yuan Qi. It is hard to see it in the surreal space. Let's see what the metal inside the mountain has. Crack! Taking out his long sword, Yi Chen cut a huge hole on the surface of the mountain before flashing his body and jumping in. Inside the mountain, there were indeed metals condensed from the metal Yuan Qi. These metals were in different colors: gold, black, silver, yellow, pure green, and everything else. Sitting on a tall rock with his legs crossed, Yi Chun reached out his hand and sucked. A fist-sized piece of gold metal fell into his hand. So heavy, his wrist sank down at an indiscernible speed. Yi Chun was secretly shocked. Pouring his soul power into it, Yi Chun carefully sensed the metal profound inside, trying to see how it operated and maintained its form. Tens of thousands of miles away, a red-haired teenager sat next to an exploding volcano. The aura of the red-haired teenager was like that of a demon. It was indeed Chu Zhongtian, who had lost to Yi Chun in the tea gathering. In the last tea gathering, Chu Zhongtian was only at the late astral reaching realm, not even at the peak level. But now, judging from the vibration frequency of his evil yuan, he had already reached the peak level of the late astral reaching realm, and it had been a while since then. Opening his eyes, a sharp red light flashed through Chu Zhongtian's eyes. Although the evil yuan would not be that much purer from the late astral reaching realm to the peak level, the total amount of evil yuan has increased by 20%. My evil yuan is already very powerful, and once the total amount has increased, my battling power will naturally increase as well. Not only that, my fire and earth dual martial art have also reached the 14th level. My battling power is completely different from 2 years ago. In this tea gathering, I will beat everyone and then challenge even more powerful opponents. Chu Zhongtian was proud, and he would not allow any failure, not even once. Losing to Yi Chun was the biggest humiliation of his life, and this time, he wanted to get it back. As for the Thunder Princess and Edict Prince, they did not seem to be much of a threat to him, because they were different from Yi Chun. They seemed to be subdued by him, since his evil spirit body and evil yuan were not to be trifled with. However, just in case, I will have to do more research on profound sense martial arts. I think the remaining few months should be enough for me to beat them with absolute power. Boom! The volcano erupted even more violently. The combination of fire yuan qi and earth yuan qi was extremely powerful, containing two kinds of profound sense. Chu Zhongtian carefully studied the fire profound and the earth profound. In the middle of a thunderstorm in the extreme void sky, Jing Aoshuan opened her arms and floated in the air. Swoosh! Beams of lightning struck on Jing Aoshuan's body one after another. Gradually, Jing Aoshuan was wrapped in a round electric ball, her long hair dancing in the air with a hint of dark blue. After an unknown period of time, Jing Aoshuan suddenly opened her eyes. Two spiraling electric currents shot out, and the electric ball exploded. Extreme Emperor Tyrannical Fist. An invisible electric current rolled up as Jing Aoshuan threw out a punch, hitting right in the middle of the thunderstorm. Boom! This thunderstorm directly dissipated, turning into pure thunder origin energy that radiated outwards. Wherever it went, mountains would explode and rivers would be cut off. Extreme Emperor Tyrannical Fist, 70%. But it is still not enough. I need to get more powerful. The three of them will not stay where they are. Taking a deep breath, Jing Aoshuan continued to search for new thunderstorms, trying to learn more about the Thunder Profound. If others knew that Jing Aoshuan had already trained her low-rank profound sense martial art to 70% and learned the Thunder Profound, they would probably have their mouths wide open. It should be known that there were very few warriors below the Sea of Souls realm who could learn the profound sense. Just this alone was enough for her to look down on everyone else. Xiaoyan, this is the top sky. The planet we are on is called the Colored Glass Planet, and it is one of the smallest planets in the top sky. It is also the least dangerous. You will train here from now on. Remember, you have to be careful. Do not run around. Some of the godly lights with more than 5 types of Yuan Qi combined will even scare away life and death realm warriors. On the dreamlike little planet, a white-haired elder said to Li Xiaoyan. Li Xiaoyan had been attracted by the top sky for a long time. The pitch-black surreal space, the countless planets, the paths between them, and the nebulas formed by the huge amount of planets. It was hard for him to breathe, but it also stimulated his inner passion. One day, he would reach this sky with his own power. As if knowing that Li Xiaoyan would have this kind of expression, The elder laughed and said, "But you do not need to worry too much. I have set up a small spell here. It should be enough to protect you from the godly lights." "Thank you, master." Coming back to his senses, Li Xiaoyan thanked the elder. The white-haired old man waved his hand and said, "Your talent is extraordinary. You have the power of the stars sealed in your right hand and the power of the wind sealed in your left hand. These two powers aren't simply the application of Yuan Qi. They are more profound existences, so don't waste your talent. Gradually explore their deeper power." Xiaoyan will remember. "All right, I will go first. If there is anything, just crush that light ball." Taking a step forward, the white-haired elder disappeared into the surreal space. After the white-haired elder left, Li Xiaoyan curiously looked around. This was the first time he came to the third level, the top sky. The top sky was actually the space closest to the mainland. In his eyes, the top sky was too mysterious. The maintenance and operation of those planets were simply too mysterious. Apart from that, there were some beautiful lights that cut through the darkness from time to time, rendering the dark sky extremely dreamy. Under my feet is the glazed star. Relying on the star power of the glazed star, I will definitely be able to comprehend the star profound. Unfortunately, there is no star Yuan Qi in the extreme void. Otherwise, why would I bother coming to the top sky? Getting rid of the distracting thoughts, Li Xiaoyan sat cross-legged on the stone platform in the center of the spell and closed his eyes to feel the star power that was everywhere. These days, Yichun had almost no time to attend to other things. Comprehending the metal profound, accompanying his parents and siblings, and preparing for the tea gathering in the heavy mystery mountain range. He had to do everything personally. Comprehending the metal profound and chatting with his family were very enjoyable. Only the tea gathering was a little difficult. After all, the heavy mystery mountain range couldn't be compared to the Thunder City's beautiful garden. The beautiful garden was protected by a restrictive power, which was hard to shake. Although the gravity of the heavy mystery mountain range was great, it couldn't stop the destruction during a fierce battle. He couldn't just destroy one place and then move to another. Otherwise, how would he be able to enjoy the tea gathering? Therefore, Yichun first chose the location of the tea gathering in the heavy mystery mountain range. Then, he began to pay for the construction of the tea gathering building. The building was made of metal that was comparable to low-grade spirit weapons in the martial city. It was wrapped in an antique wooden veneer. The sparring area was at the center of the building. There was an entire battling platform there, which was 3 miles long and wide. The entire platform was made of metal that was comparable to low-grade spirit weapons, and there were layers upon layers of fortifying arrays on top of it. 10 miles away, there was also a huge tower, which was provided for the 50 young warriors who didn't have the right to participate in the tea gathering. Originally, even if Yi Chun didn't spend all of his money, it would at least cost him a lot. However, he didn't need to pay for the spirit stones, since there were way too many martial institutions and countries in the South River region fighting for the spirit stones. After all, this was the glory of the South River region after all. If the tea gathering location was too simple, how would the others look at the South River region? It wouldn't look good at all. Therefore, he directly told Yi Chun that the spirit stones were not a problem. He could have as many as he wanted, but he had to build a tea gathering location that belonged to the South River region. Plus, the tea gathering location was not a one-time thing. In the future, it might be the South River region's turn. At that time, he wouldn't have to build a tea gathering location anymore. Chapter 507. Simple things could be done quickly, but complicated things would take more time. However, learning the goal profound made Yi Chun feel that time passed very fast. Every time he woke up from his state of learning, 10 days or half a month would have passed in the outside world. In order to spend more time with his family and to digest what he had learned, Yi Chun would only go to the extreme void sky once a week. In the blink of an eye, for months had passed. There were only 3 days left before the martial gathering would begin, and the venue had already been completed a month ago. Right now, the martial city in the center of the heavy, mysterious mountains was extremely lively. The flow of people was increasing every day, and everyone was talking about the upcoming martial gathering. Inside the tea houses and restaurants, there were countless young warriors. Of course, most of them were the young warriors from the South River region. Even if they could not participate in the gathering, they still wanted to see some of the top martial geniuses from the other regions, such as the famous Edict Prince, Thunder Princess, and Astral Spirit Son. As for the legendary warrior from the South River region, they wanted to see him even more. After so many years, the South River region finally had a chance to shine, and the one who had brought all of this was Yi Chun. Look, this is the martial genius who is only weaker than the Thunder Princess in the Thunder region, Beast Prince Embark. I heard that he had fought against Yi Chun in the last tea gathering. Where? Let me see. Inside a tea house, the young warriors from the South River region were pointing at Beast Prince Embark excitedly. Among them were people from the Sky Cloud Martial School. This chi is so powerful. I can't even breathe in front of him. Lu Han was shocked. He exchanged a look with Zhu Mei and Zhang Haoren. They couldn't help but think of Yi Chun. In the last tea gathering, Yi Chun had fought against this group of powerful warriors and became an undefeated legend. Mo Xiang made a face and said with a frown, "These people are too weak. I really don't know how a genius like Yi Chun could appear in this kind of environment. There will always be one or two surprises. I wonder how Yi Chun will become in this tea gathering. I really want to start soon." The black swordsman, who had lost to Yi Chun, was with Mo Xiang for some reason. After not seeing him for 2 years, he must have become even stronger. However, the other three must have improved a lot as well. Living in the same era as them is really sad. Yeah, after 2 years of cultivation, I have barely reached their level last year. Of course, if I were to really fight against them 2 years ago, I would still lose more than I win, let alone 2 years later. The population of the martial city continued to increase, and the clamor reached the sky. 1 day later, Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan and Edict Prince Li Xiaoyan arrived one after another. On the same evening, Astral Spirit Son Chu Zhongtian also arrived at the overcrowded martial city. At this point, 3 of the 4 most powerful warriors of the South River region had arrived. This host, Yi Chun, is too much. He still hasn't shown up until now. In the restaurant in the center of Martial City, Li Xiaoyan joked. Chu Zhongtian crossed his arms in front of his chest. "There's no hurry. Just show up at the tea party." It seems like Brother Chu is full of confidence. Li Xiaoyan glanced at Chu Zhongtian and slightly squinted his eyes. The latter gave him a very dangerous feeling. Sitting there, he was like a wild beast taking a nap, emitting an extremely aggressive aura. Chu Zhongtian snorted. Li Xiaoyan and Jing Aoshuan had also exceeded his expectations. One of them had an aura as deep as the starry sky, while the other had a powerful thunder intent. They were way more powerful than the last tea gathering. Of course, the more powerful the opponent, the better. Otherwise, what would be the point of beating them? Another day passed in a flash, and Yi Chun still hadn't shown up. On the street, young figures could be seen everywhere. Lynch, Su Wan, and Yi were among them. If I don't go out, I would really be a frog at the bottom of a well. Walking down this street, 9 out of 10 people would be more powerful than me. As the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy, Su Wan seemed to have matured a lot. However, the young man's ambition had not decreased at all. Yu said, "Before, I thought that Yi Chun was purposely exaggerating the level of the tea gathering. But now, it seems like he was just being conservative. Lynch, I'm not trying to discourage you. Only with discourage will there be improvement. I don't mind." Lynch looked very calm. Hearing him, Su Wan nodded silently. Speaking of which, Lynch's talent was not that high. At least in the Windy Nation, he was neither the first nor the second in terms of talent. However, his achievements were the most powerful after Yi Chun, which had a lot to do with his mentality. On another street, Lu Wuxiang looked at Zhuang Fei and Ji Shuyan. "What do you guys think?" Ji Shuyan stayed silent for a while, then said slowly, "Very powerful. None of them are weak. If they come to the Windy Nation, besides the number 1, everyone else would be ranked lower. Indeed, very powerful." Zhuang Fei had to admit it. Lu Wuxiang forced a smile and said, "Walking with them, I feel like we're like defenseless kids, unable to fight back at all. All right, let's just be spectators. This is the chance that Yi-chan has fought for us, and it is also the chance for us to see the gap between us. It was not scary to see the gap, but it was scary not knowing where it was. After 3 days, the tea gathering officially began. Thousands of miles away from the martial city, there was a flat area surrounded by mountains. The flat area occupied hundreds of miles, and the gravity was extremely strong. The plants were even taller than the trees in the sky. In the middle of the flat area, there was a huge manor built. The manor was surrounded by a 100-meter-tall wall, with thousands of clasping Yuan realm warriors guarding outside, preventing people from sneaking in. Of course, this was just a formality. If someone really wanted to sneak in with their clasping Yuan realm cultivation, they would not be able to stop him. However, it was basically impossible for someone to be blind. It should be known that once the tea gathering was held, the manor would become a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Without Sea of Souls realm cultivation, no one would dare to barge in. Even Sea of Souls realm warriors would have to take care of their own faces. There were 4 entrances to the manor. Outside of each entrance, there was an attacking power testing pillar. After careful consideration, Yi-chan had raised the requirement for entering the tea gathering a bit higher. One would have to get a score of 79 before they could enter. The others were not allowed to stay in the flat area. As for standing on the tall mountains, it was up to them. Since the surrounding mountains were 200 to 300 miles away from the manor, even Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be able to see the battles inside clearly. Boom! Someone had already started the test. The first person had successfully passed, getting a score of 80. The second person had been eliminated. Lynch, it's your turn. Su won, and Yu looked at Lynch. Lynch sucked in a deep breath, pulled out his long blade, and walked up. Boom! The long blade fiercely hacked on the crystal of the pillar, causing it to flicker crazily. Eventually, he got a score of 80. Pass. The supervising astral reaching realm warrior was expressionless. Huff. Lynch let out a breath. In fact, he could not get 80 every time. When he was not in good condition, he might not even be able to get 79. Lynch, let's go to the tower over there. Su won, and Yu also let out a breath of relief and walked toward the magnificent tower 10 li away. After half an hour, all the young warriors had finished their tests. Although the requirement had been raised, it had been 2 years, so the number of young warriors who had the qualifications to enter the tea gathering was much higher than the last one. There were more than 460 people in total. The inside of the manor was huge, and there were a lot of tea houses. In the middle of the tea house was a 3 li long and wide battling platform. Arriving at the tea house with South Ridra region written on it, Lynch saw a lot of top young warriors from the South Ridra region. There were Li Daoxian, Yen Shihua, Tuo Baku, and more than 20 others. As for Sikong Sheng, he did not come. You are from the Windy Nation, right? Yen Shihua was the first to notice Lynch. There was no other reason other than the fact that he was using a blade. Lynch nodded. Indeed, there is one more in our South Ridra region. Li Daoxian chuckled. Finding a seat and sitting down, Lynch started to observe the other tea houses. Every tea house he sensed had a sky-piercing chi, which was immeasurably deep. Among them, the Thunder region, Floating Light region, and Gold Sand region had the strongest chi. The Thunder region tea house seemed to be brewing an endless thunderstorm. The Floating Light region had a starry sky like depth, and the Gold Sand region was covered in a blood-red chi, looking like a demon. Right then, Tuobaku said, "Why is Yi-chan not here yet? We were waiting for him." Li Daoxian said, "Perhaps he was delayed by something. No rush." It was early in the morning, and the mist in the air was drizzling on the ground under the effect of gravity. Thousands of li away, a wave of sword light was flying at 10 times the speed of sound. I did not expect to be late. Fortunately, it is not that bad. The human figure in the sword light was indeed Yi-chan. Normally, it would take him 10 days to half a month to comprehend the gold profound, but this time, it took him 20 days. Fortunately, he had finally comprehended a little bit of the profound, which allowed him to increase his gold resonant radiant sword art to 60%. Otherwise, it would be very hard for him to wake up from his meditation. Yi-chan felt a bit lucky. It was his first time hosting a tea gathering in the South River region, so he did not want to make a fool of himself or give people the impression that he was acting like a big shot. The heavy, mysterious mountains were still in front of him, and Yi Chen's speed increased again. Just as some people in the manor started to express their dissatisfaction, a cold sword qi suddenly shrouded the area. This sword qi was different from the sword qi Yi Chen had used before. It was more aggressive, like a tornado that swept away the clouds. It appeared instantly, covering thousands of miles. It is Yi Chen. This sword qi is so scary. He is so much more powerful than the last time. As the crowd discussed, Jing Aoshuan, Li Xiaoyun, and Chu Zhongtian all changed their expressions. Last time, Yi Chen was very reserved. Without taking out his sword, it would be hard to know how powerful he was. But this time, Yi Chen seemed to be a completely different person. Without taking out his sword, he was already giving people an intense pressure. The countless qi in the air above the manor had all disappeared because of his arrival, unable to handle the pressure anymore. Unbelievably powerful. This was the consensus of the three. Chapter 508. My apologies, everyone. Yi Chen is a bit late. I hope you can forgive me. At the wide entrance of the manor, Yi Chen, who was dressed in blue robes and had a long sword on his waist, walked in with big steps. His blue robes fluttered in the wind, as if he could shrink the ground. Every step he took covered dozens of meters. Li Xiaoyan hid his surprised expression and said with a huge distance between them, "It's good that you are here. Then, let the tea gathering begin." Yi Chen nodded and arrived on the battling platform. He looked around and said, "In the tea gathering, drinking tea and exchanging pointers are both indispensable. I wonder who is willing to be the first to go up and add some liveliness to the tea gathering." Just as Yi Chen finished his words, two people flew out of the tea house at the same time. On the way, they looked at each other in surprise before laughing out loud. Without slowing down, they landed steadily on the battling platform. "Let's stop the sparring. You two can start." Seeing the situation, Yi Chen took a few steps back. After 3 steps, his body jumped up and landed on the top floor of the tea house in South River region. This time, there were a total of 23 people from South River region participating in the tea gathering. Including Yi Chen, it would be 24. Seeing Yi Chen coming up, everyone greeted him. Tua Baku couldn't help but ask curiously, "Yi Chen, how come you seem to have changed from 2 years ago?" Yi Chen knew what he was talking about. Ever since he had imprinted the slaughter element on his sword spirit embryo, his qi had changed from being reserved to being extremely aggressive. Then, he had comprehended a bit of the gold profound a couple of days ago, which made his sharpness even more threatening. If it were only this, it would not be too ostentatious. However, the qi inside the manor had caused his qi to rebound, which was why it had such an effect. Smiling, Yi Chen said, "I had a breakthrough in my cultivation, and it will be like this for a long time." "I see." Li Daoxian, who was at the side, nodded. The only thing that could cause Yi Chen to change was definitely a breakthrough in the way of the sword. Right now, although Yi Chen's aura was not as reserved as before, it was even more dangerous. If the previous Yi Chen was an unfathomable swordsman, then he was now a king among swordsmen. He was not reserved, but he was even more terrifying than that. It was as if he was using a high profile to cover up an even higher profile. The sparring on the martial arts stage was extremely intense. In the past 2 years, no one had stopped advancing. They had improved from their original foundation. Rumble. The battling platform started to shake. The black sword artist and deadly sword artist had started to fight. Both of them were sword artists, but one had comprehended the slaughter sword intent, and his sword aura was overbearing. The other's sword art was extremely fast, and he specialized in deadly attacks. Besides Yi Chen, the battle between these two had attracted the attention of every sword artist present. In the end, it was still Fatal Sword Artist who was more skilled. His sword pierced through Black Sword Artist's shoulder. Although Black Sword Artist had also sent Fatal Sword Artist flying with his sword, most of his sword qi had been dissipated by his opponent. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. During this period of time, Lynch had sparred 3 times on the stage. However, he had lost all 3 times. It was not that he was weak, but that his opponents were too strong. In fact, among the 460 people present, there were not many who were weaker than Lynch. Almost all of them were above him. Apart from Lynch, all of the young warriors of South River region had gone on the stage. Among them, Tua Baku was still the most eye-catching. Although Li Daoxian and Yin Shihua had made great progress, their rankings had only risen by 1 or 2 ranks, which was not too obvious. As for Sikong Sheng, who had appeared in the last South River region, he did not come. Murong Qingsheng also seemed to be in closed-door training in her family. Too powerful. Every one of them is several times stronger than me. On the top floor of a Tower 10 li away, 50 young warriors of South River region opened their eyes wide and held their breaths. In South River region, they were the pride of the heavens and were the center of attention. However, when compared to the whole South region, they were nothing. They were merely bystanders, insignificant bystanders. This opportunity was given by Yi Chun. Seeing such a frightening sparring, some of them felt depressed, thinking that no matter how hard they tried, they would never be able to reach such a realm. Some of them secretly swore that they would use their own strength to participate in the next tea gathering. Yi Chun, I will be your opponent. Feeling Yi Chun's frightening power, Yu Xian, who had always been inseparable from Li Xiaoyan, flew out. She wanted to take the lead for Li Xiaoyan and test Yi Chun's strength. Li Xiaoyan forced a smile, but deep in his heart, he was looking forward to it. He wanted to see how far Yu Xian could push Yi Chun. Putting down the teacup, Yi Chun stood up. A blue shadow flashed, and he appeared on the battling platform. Yu Xian closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his eyes were filled with a mysterious light. Pop! The air suddenly vibrated, as if he had been hit by something. This mental attack did not hit Yi Chun. He had teleported in the air, leaving 7 shadows in a straight line, and 3 of them had been shattered. Yu Xian was not in a hurry. His eyes followed Yi Chun's trajectory. This strange attack had shocked most of the people. What kind of attack is this? On the tower, Luo Han and the others were even more confused. Young Master North Snow, Su Wen guessed, "It looks like martial will, but martial will cannot be this powerful. Perhaps it is a secret art related to eyesight." After dodging for a while, Yi Chun suddenly said, "You are from the underground world?" Yu Xian's expression changed. "It has nothing to do with you." The mental attack became more and more violent. Yi Chun did not try to dodge anymore. He flicked his fingers, and beams of Lotus Heart sword chi that were as thin as bullets shot out. Wherever they went, Yu Xian's psyche was cut off, and the air was torn apart. It covered Yu Xian's entire body, leaving no space for her to dodge. Plain armor. The surrounding air twisted, and a transparent, tight-fitting armor appeared around Yu Xian's body. The armor covered her entire body, including her head. Only her beautiful eyes could be seen. Pop, pop, pop. After 7 clear sounds, blood came out of Yu Xian's mouth corner, and the transparent armor cracked inch by inch. Yu Xian gave up. In the tea house, Li Xiaoyan gave up the idea of letting Yu Xian test Yi Chun, because he knew that even if there were 3 Yu Xian, they would not be able to test Yi Chun's bottom line. Compared to 2 years ago, Yi Chun had improved a lot. Only the sword chi inside his body had become a few times more powerful. Yu Xian let go of the mental attacks around her and looked at Yi Chun with a bit of shock. Then, she turned around and went back to the tea house. She is from the underground world? A saint lady? Yi Chun really did not expect that Yu Xian would be able to use a mind attack. Since she could do that, she was most likely from the underground world. But, judging from her strength, she should at least be a saint girl of some tribe in the underground world, which would only be stronger than Gold Wind Saint Sun. I wonder if that Een Demon Master has come out or not. Yi Chun thought about the Een Demon Master who was trapped in the underground world. He was the first master-level warrior he had seen. As for how powerful he was, he did not know. He only knew that with his current power, he would not be his opponent. He would probably have to wait until he reached the Sea of Souls realm to have the confidence to escape. 2 years, and he is already this powerful? It is beyond my imagination. Princess Jing, how confident are you? In the Thunder Region tea house, Mo Xiang's face was full of disbelief. He had not fought with Uxin before, but the power she had shown was definitely not weaker than his. He could not help but turn his head to ask Jing Aoshuan. Jing Aoshuan shook her head. At most 40%, but if I do not lose, I have more than 50% confidence. She had trained the Extreme King Tyrannical Fist Art and Extreme King World Shocking Fist Art to 70%, so it was already incredible that she admitted she was not as powerful as Yichun. Chapter 509. After beating Uxin, Yichun jumped lightly and went back to the top floor of the tea house in the South River region. Maybe they knew that they would not be able to compete with Yichun, or maybe they wanted to save the top battles for the last. But after that, no one challenged Yichun, and no one challenged Li Xiaoyan, Jing Aoshuan, or Chu Zhongtian. Besides these four, the battles in the second tier were still going on. Luo Shan from the Gold Sand region, Mo Xiang from the Thunder region, Tuo Baku from the South River region, and Lu Han from the Floating Light region. These four were the most popular candidates for the 5th place. Once one of them managed to win, the host of the next tea gathering would be him. Yichun, do you think Tuo Baku has a chance? Watching the battle between Tuo Baku and Luo Shan on the battling platform, Li Daoxian could not help but ask. Yichun said, I am afraid not. If I have guessed it right, the next host should be Luo Shan. She has the least weaknesses, and her overall power is the most powerful. Just as he finished talking, Luo Shan, who had been fighting with Tuo Baku, made a slight noise. She used her spear to blow away the incoming lizard body and dragon head shadow, while the other short spear landed on Tuo Baku's protective Zhenyuan layer. That spear attack was extremely powerful. Even with Tuo Baku's powerful defense, he could not help but puke out a huge chunk of blood. It seems like it really is Luo Shan. Li Daoxian forced a smile. As the young generation of the South River region, there was no one who did not wish for the South River region to have 2 tea gatherings in a row. It was not only an honor, but also a motivation to motivate the young generation of the South River region. As for Chu Zhongtian, although he had never hosted the tea gathering before, with his arrogant personality, he would not attend the next one, unless Yichun, Li Xiaoyan, and Jing Aoshuan were all there. Unfortunately, it was not possible. Yichun shook his head. Perhaps Tuo Baku still does not want to accept the host position, because he knows that the level of the next tea gathering would be lower. You are right. He is a battle maniac, and does not care about winning or losing at all. After taking down Tuku, Luo Shan was getting more and more powerful. Not only had she beaten Lu Han, she had also beaten the super popular candidate, Mo Xiang. Right now, Luo Shan's position as the 5th warrior was unshakable. Phew! Finally, the most exciting moment of the tea gathering. After 2 years of training, I wonder who will become the true number 1 warrior of the young generation of the southern regions. Yeah, although Chu Zhongtian lost to Yichun last time, he tied with Princess Jing. Princess Jing and Li Xiaoyan, as well as Li Xiaoyan and Yichun, also tied. There was no clear winner. Who do you think will win? I'm more optimistic about Yichun and Chu Zhongtian. One has super combat power, while the other has an outstanding physique. Do not underestimate Li Xiaoyan and Princess Jing. Li Xiaoyan's physique is also quite mysterious. Both of his hands have the wind power and the star power sealed in them, while Princess Jing has trained the thunder element Zhenyuan and learned the profound of thunder. She is unbeatable. As the second-tier young warriors had finished their battles, everyone's spirits were lifted. They really wanted to know who would be the number 1 warrior of the southern regions, and not just a tie. Lin Qi, who was wearing white, was sitting against the wall. He could not help but glance at Yichun, wanting to see what kind of expression this young sword artist, who was born in the same generation as him but had already become a legend in the South River region, would have. But he was disappointed. Yichun's expression did not change at all. He was drinking tea while chatting with Li Daoxian and Tuo Baku, as if he did not care about the upcoming battle at all. In the tower 10 miles away, the group of people from the South River region were also looking forward to it. They could finally see Yichun's true strength, and they wondered what kind of shocking performance he would have. After drinking his tea, Yichun raised his head and his voice spread out under the amplification of his Zhen Yuan. You three, let the battle between us begin now. All right. Li Xiaoyan was the first to respond. Yeah. Jing Aoshuan's voice was very calm. Only Chu Zhongtian did not respond. However, the aura above the Gold Sand region's tea house suddenly increased, and it did not seem to fit in with the surrounding world. Yichun, I did not have the chance to battle with you in the last tea party. This time, let's start with US. Jing Aoshuan stood up, and tiny electric arcs appeared in the air. Yichun smiled lightly and was about to stand up. Someone is coming. Yichun looked toward the north. Meanwhile, Li Xiaoyan, Jing Aoshuan, and Chu Zhongtian had also noticed the abnormality in the north. There, the sea of clouds was tumbling endlessly, and thunder and lightning could be heard. Four shocking auras spread out, clashing with the auras of Yichun and the other three. All of a sudden, the airflow around the manor suddenly accelerated, turning from gentle to raging waves. Who is it? With such a huge formation, it was impossible for the others to not notice it. They all stood up and looked toward the north with serious expressions. Who are you? As the host of the tea party, Yi Chun had to maintain the image of the tea party. If he lost his momentum, it would not only be the southern region's face, but also his own. Therefore, he reacted at the first moment. He stepped out, and his forehead swelled up. His shocking aura caused the clouds in the sky to change and the wind to blow wildly. Soon, an invisible sword chi filled the sky above the manor, pointing toward the north. Everyone was scared by Yi Chen's aura. With just one movement, his aura had increased to such an extent. They could even feel that every inch of space above the manor had been occupied by the invisible sword chi. With his power alone, he was fighting against the four auras in the north. Li Xiaoyan shook his head with a bitter smile. He had to admit that the Yi Chun, after 2 years, had already made him feel like he could not win against him. This was something that had never happened before. In a battle between two powerful warriors, being scared before the battle even started was a huge taboo and a sign of losing. I guess I'm not his opponent. Li Xiaoyan let out a breath and sat down. Uxian sat down as well. Jing Aoshuan took a deep look at Yi Chun, who was on the top floor of the tea house, and also sat down. With Yi Chun there, she would not have to do anything. The most shocked one would be Chu Zhongtian. Judging from his Zhen Yuan vibration, Yi Chun was still not as powerful as him. No, it was quite a bit weaker than him. However, in terms of aura, he had been completely suppressed by Yi Chun. The dark red chi that had covered a large area started to shrink, as if it had sensed the power of the invisible sword chi. It seems like the southern region still has 1 or 2 geniuses. This is indeed out of my expectation. The sea of clouds split open, and 4 figures appeared at an extreme speed. Shoo! 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 In the blink of an eye, 4 more people appeared on the martial stage. All 4 of them had extremely powerful auras, so powerful that there was no limit to their strength. The aura they released earlier was just a test, especially the long-haired young man in the lead. His terrifying aura caused the entire world to darken, as though night had arrived. The pitch-black sky enveloped the earth, covering the sun and moon. Moreover, he had to thank Watermelon Skin N0 for tipping him 70,000 Chidian coins, which allowed him to become the 3rd leader of this book. Chapter 510. Bloodhand Tang Jia, Shadowless Whip Shui Yinghao, One Blade Ling Luohan, and East Demon Xie Jiqiu. Oh my god, why are they here? And 4 of them at the same time. In the tea gathering, there were young warriors from other regions outside of the southern region. The one speaking was the number 1 warrior of the Snow, Iron region, Gao Hua, who was one of the smaller regions in the eastern region, which was quite close to the southern region. Another young warrior from the Snow, Iron region forced a smile. It seems like someone had spread the news of the last tea gathering. With Yi Chun and the other 3's power, their power must have been exaggerated, which attracted the attention of these powerful warriors. Now, they are here to suppress the southern region. Although we were born in the eastern region, compared to the open challenge of the eastern region, the tea gathering of the southern region is more suitable for us. I think we should remind Yi Chun and the rest to prepare themselves. These people are not normal people. They are all battle-hardened warriors who have walked through blood rain. After thinking for a while, Gao Hua sent a Zhen Yuan message to Yi Chun and the other three. They are from the eastern region? Yi Chun's voice was transmitted over. Indeed, the one in the blood robes is called Bloodhand Tang Jie, and he has already learned the profound of blood. His battling power is extremely powerful, and he is good at direct attacks. He can easily break through the protective Zhen Yuan of warriors at the same level. I heard that once hit by his palm attack, all the blood in one's body would be drained. Without top-rank blood replenishing medicine, one would not be able to recover to the peak state within 3 to 5 years. The one with the whip around his waist is called Shadowless Whip Shuang Hao. His movement art is just like his nickname, shadowless and shapeless. Once the whip was thrown out, the one who was hit would not even be able to see the trajectory of the whip. What was even more horrifying was that he used to be a genius killer in the eastern region. Killing normal Sea of Souls realm warriors would be as easy as eating and drinking for him. The one with the battle blade on his back is called One Blade Ling Luan. He would only throw out one blade attack at a time, and after that he would put the blade back into the scabbard and wait for the next attack. Therefore, people call him One Blade. Because he would only throw out one blade attack at a time, he was very strict with his blade art, trying to kill with one blade attack. He was an extremely horrifying warrior and an opponent that most people did not want to face. That long-haired young man. If you meet him, you better admit defeat. Oh, what's so great about him? Li Xiaoyan's voice rang out. Gao Hua took a deep breath and said, Xie Zhiqiu, nicknamed the Eastern Devil, is one of the 2 people who have intruded into the sky martial region of the eastern regions. Moreover, his fame is not weak in the sky martial region, and he has attracted the attention of many forces in the sky martial region. His nickname has the word devil because he walks the devil way and has comprehended the devil will. His luck on the devil way is extremely frightening. He has inherited the mantle of several devil kings, and he himself has a devil nature, which is very strange. When other people's children are born, they cry loudly, but when he was born, he laughed loudly, which scared his parents and clansmen. After he was born, he could walk on the same day. At the age of 3, he killed a servant who did not dare to fight back. When you meet him, you must admit defeat. Otherwise, even if you don't die, you will be crippled. Gao Hua's voice was tinged with fear. It was obvious that Xie Zhiqiu was giving him a lot of pressure. East Demon. Chu Zhongtian sneered disdainfully as a demonic aura spread out from his body. Thank you for your reminder. We got it. Yi Chen's voice was very calm, without a trace of emotion. Dong Hua sighed. He knew that the top geniuses would never admit defeat. No matter how frightening you were, they would not take the initiative to retreat. However, those 4 were not ordinary people. There were no tea gatherings in the eastern regions, but there were challenges. What? Nobody dares to answer? Tang Jie, who was wearing a blood-red robe, had a cold smile on his face. Yi Chen walked to the window of the tea house. You guys have intruded into our southern region's tea gathering. I wonder what you want, but if it's nothing big, then don't blame me for kicking you out. Oh, you could try. Shuang Hao, who had a whip wrapped around his waist, grinned. The weather seemed to have turned gloomy and cold. So scary. The young warriors from the other regions all took a deep breath. This shadowless whipped Shuang Hao was like a poisonous snake that devoured its own kind. Anyone who was targeted by him would feel their blood run cold. 10 miles away, Lu Hantan and the rest also had a serious look on their faces. The 4 warriors were all extremely powerful. Even from 10 miles away, they could still feel the horrifying aura coming from them. This Shuang Hao was not targeting them, but they could still feel the cold sweat on their foreheads. It was the kind of death chi that only people who had killed countless people would have, the kind that was extremely close to death. I can't take it anymore. A young warrior who had reached the astral reaching realm not long ago hurried to look away, his face pale. Right then, Yi Chen's eyes met Shuang Hao's. The sharp chi spread out from his eyes, and the sword chi spread out in all directions, as if there were countless swords floating in the air. It's you. You're the Yi Chen, right? I've heard about you. But You have to be careful in front of me. I might cripple you." Chui Hao was a bit surprised, but then he laughed, showing his white teeth. So reckless. Knocking on the window frame with his fingers, the slaughter sword spirit embryo inside, Yi Chen's soul ocean started to vibrate. This was the first time he had actively used the slaughter sword spirit embryo. When he had just arrived at the mansion, it was only because of the rebound of the chi that leaked out a little bit. Before, he also felt that these 4 people were just testing him, so he held back a little bit. But now, he decided to give them a good lesson. Ha ha! A loud laughter was heard. East Demon Xie Zhiqiu glanced at Yi Chun and said with a loud voice, "I heard that the level of the Southern Region Martial Tea gathering is quite high, so I came here to see for myself. I wonder who among you would like to battle with us. Of course, if you're not qualified, don't come out and embarrass yourselves. Otherwise, you will die miserably. If you want to fight, then let's fight. We will keep you company." Jing Aoshuan said coldly. Good, good. Tang Jia, let's start with you. Don't let down our Eastern region's name. Xie Zhiqiu said to Bloodhand Tang Jia. Tang Jia slowly walked to the center of the battling platform. Who wants to come down and die? Shameless boasting. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun's body flashed, and like a tornado, he appeared on the battling platform. You are barely qualified. Tang Jia glanced at Li Xiaoyun, shook his head, and then nodded. Cut the crap. Let's begin. Although Li Xiaoyun's fame had been stolen by Yi Chun, it was undeniable that he used to be the #1 warrior of the Southern region's young generation for a period of time. Everyone was full of confidence in him, thinking that he would be able to defeat Tang Jia and strengthen the Southern region's reputation. Let's go up. There are actually people from our Eastern region here. Xie Zhiqiu, Chui Hao, and Ling Luohan appeared on the top floor of the Snow Iron Region's tea house. Xie Zhiqiu, please sit. The #1 warrior of the Snow Iron Region, Gao Hua, offered his seat on his own. His expression was very cautious, even carrying a trace of fear. Xie Zhiqiu sat down without any hesitation. The 2 seats next to him were taken by Chui Hao and Ling Luohan. The others all stayed far away from him. You guys have brought shame to our Eastern region, Xie Zhiqiu said intentionally or unintentionally. Sweat appeared on Gao Hua's forehead. Not at all. Chui Hao sneered. Participating in the martial tea gathering and not being able to get a rank means that you are all trash. If this isn't shameful, then what is? This. Everyone from the Snow Iron region was angry, but they did not dare to say anything. All right, let's talk about this later. Xie Zhiqiu looked at the battling platform. On the platform, the battle between Tang Jia and Li Xiaoyun had already begun. Boom, 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 boom. Bloodhand Tang Jia's attack was extremely fierce. Once he attacked, the sky was filled with blood palm prints. Each of them was pushed by the profound blood. As soon as Li Xiaoyun Jin Yuan came into contact with them, it would immediately shatter with a chi-chi sound, gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. Wind barrier. Li Xiaoyun released the wind power in his left hand, arranging layers of wind walls in front of him. These wind walls contained profound mysteries, and their insides were always in a moving state. Petty tricks. Tang Jia sneered. His body moved along with his palm, slapping on the wind wall. Pop, pop, pop. Several layers of wind walls were shattered. Tang Jia pushed out his palm, and the blood palm print shrouded towards Li Xiaoyun. The 5 blood, red Jun Yuan fingers were like pillars in the sky. 7-star crossing. Releasing the star power in his right hand, Li Xiaoyun closed his iron fan and waved it in a slanted manner. The 7-star beads were arranged according to the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. The moment they were arranged, 7 stars flashed in the sky. In the next second, the battling platform turned dark, as if it had arrived in the starry sky, leaving only the 7-star beads flickering with eternal light. Compared to 2 years ago, Li Xiaoyun's ace attack, 7-star crossing, was more than twice as powerful. When he performed this attack with all his power, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, which was extremely far away from the continent, would shine once, transmitting the power of the 7 stars of the Big Dipper in a mysterious way. Break for me. Tang Jia was slightly surprised. This Li Xiaoyun was definitely not as simple as he looked. Even he could not figure out the operation of this ace attack. However, Tang Jie always liked to fight attacks with attacks. Therefore, the stronger Li Xiaonan was, the more fun he would have. Pushing his bludgeon yuan to the limit, Tang Jie suddenly roared and jumped high into the sky, throwing out a palm attack. Boom! The black starry sky shattered. 5 blood-red Jun Yuan fingers were like huge hands in the universe, grabbing and destroying the stars one after another, shattering Li Xiaoyan's 7-star crossing. At the same time, another blood-red Jun Yuan finger rose up and pointed at a certain part of the starry sky. Pooh! The darkness dispersed, and Li Xiaoyan vomited a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. On the battling platform, Tang Jie was not unscathed. The clothes on his right arm and shoulder had been shattered, with a total of 3 circular marks on them. These were the injuries caused by the 7-star crossing. Unfortunately, only 3 of them had taken effect, and their power had been reduced by 90%. Therefore, Tang Jie was only slightly wounded. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyan lost. He really lost. All of the young warriors from the southern region could not believe their own eyes. It was only a warrior from the eastern region, and Li Xiaoyan had been defeated. Just how powerful were these people? All of a sudden, they started to lose their confidence. Perhaps this tea gathering would become the shame of the southern region. Chapter 511. Too powerful. Be it Jin Yuan or profound sense martial arts, they're all above mine. Only my martial intent has a slight advantage, but it is not enough to make up for the other 2. At the edge of the battling platform, Li Xiaoyan stood up with difficulty, blood dripping down from the corner of his mouth. Shoo! The blood in his chest was boiling. It was the blood Jin Yuan eroding his body and blood. If not treated in time, his body would soon die, and his blood would dry up. Shoving an upper-rank healing pill and a blood-chi pill in his mouth, Li Xiaoyan activated his Jin Yuan, trying his best to resist and erase the blood Jin Yuan. Lost! Jing Aoshuan frowned, seeming to be caught off guard by this result. This bloodhand Tang Jie, is he really that powerful? Mo Xiang had already learned the identities of the 4 from Jing Aoshuan, but Li Xiaoyan was the Edict Prince, the former #1 warrior of the young generation in the southern regions. Even if Tang Jie's power was extremely frightening, Mo Xiang could not help but feel shocked, which was hard for him to accept. Don't think too much. After me, there is still Chu Zhongtian and Yi Chun. Jing Aoshuan had already decided to join the battle. As for Yi Chun, he was the strongest among them, so he should be the last to join the battle. Chu Zhongtian's defense would be very useful at this moment, and he might even be able to turn the tables. What happened? Tang Jie was wounded? Could it be that he was too careless? Cui Yinghao made a face. In his opinion, Tang Jie should have crushed Li Xiaoyan with an overwhelming advantage, instead of fighting with the latter until both of them were wounded. Although, Tang Jie's injury was not serious. Ling Luohan glanced at Li Xiaoyan, who had been blown away, and said lightly. At the last moment, Tang Jie tried his best, but the opponent's attack had a flickering effect, which broke through his protective Jin Yuan. Tang Jie received about 10% of the damage. Hearing this, everyone from the Snow Iron region was dumbfounded. With just a single glance, he had seen how Tang Jie had lost, as well as the characteristics of Li Xiaoyan's attacks. He had even seen how much damage Tang Jie had suffered. What kind of eyesight was this? No wonder he was called One-Blade Ling Luohan. Xie Zhiqiu smiled. It seems like the southern sector is not that bad. He turned his head. Ling Luohan, it's your turn. Ling Luohan nodded. At this moment, Tang Jie might still be able to put up a fight. However, he had still suffered some light injuries, and his battle power had been affected. Standing up, Ling Luohan crossed his arms in front of his chest and flew out. Go back and leave this to me. With your blade, Ling Luohan, I'm afraid you will be able to sweep the entire southern sector. It was not only the others who were afraid of Ling Luohan, even Tang Jie was. The latter's blade art was just too horrifying. Any flaw that he could grasp would be a fatal attack. Whoosh! Tang Jie returned to the tea house in the Snow Iron region. Taking a deep look at Ling Luohan, Li Xiaoyan also flew back and sent a message to Jing Aoshuan. Be careful. Jing Aoshuan slightly nodded and landed in front of Ling Luohan like a thunderbolt. Ling Luohan raised his head and glanced at Jing Aoshuan, then said indifferently, "Make your move. My blade will not easily leave the sheath. The moment it leaves the sheath, it will be the moment you reveal your flaw." Royal Extreme Tyrannical Fist. Jing Aoshuan did not waste any time. Her first attack was a killing attack. She performed the Royal Extreme Tyrannical Fist at 70% completion. Thunder and lightning crisscrossed, filling up the heaven and earth. Within the endless thunder and lightning, a white fist appeared. This fist was like the arrival of a king, displaying the will of thunder and lightning. Retreat. Ling Luohan's body flew backward, his sharp eyes without a trace of emotion. Retreat. Seeing this scene, a lot of people were secretly happy. Jing Aoshuan's attack was about advancing without retreating. She did not retreat herself, but forced the opponent to retreat. Once the opponent retreated, her fist aura would become smoother, and her attacks would become fiercer. This time, she might be able to win. However, only Jing Aoshuan and Yi Chen did not think so. Ling Luohan seemed to have retreated, but his retreat was very strange. He was obviously retreating, but it gave people the illusion that he was advancing. It was an extremely brilliant battle technique, retreating to advance, pressuring the opponent with his aura. It was equivalent to not retreating at all. Sigh. Yi Chen faintly shook his head. There was not much difference between Jing Aoshuan and Ling Luohan. The real difference might be in the battle. Although he had shown his battle techniques to the other three last time, it was still impossible to say that he had reached the top-tier level in one go. On the other hand, this Ling Luohan seemed to be a bit weaker than Bloodhand Tang Jie, but his battle techniques were above Tang Jie's. Yi Chen, can Jing Aoshuan win? Tua Baku's eyes were filled with confusion. Battle techniques had always been his weakness. Ling Luohan's battle techniques are indeed top tier. It should be related to his habit of only throwing out one blade attack each time. If you want to beat him, you would have to make him throw out another blade attack without putting his blade back in its scabbard. Throwing out another blade attack without putting it back in its scabbard? What kind of logic is that? Tua Baku did not understand what Yi Chen meant at all. On the contrary, Lynch seemed to be thinking about something. On the stage, Ling Luohan threw out his first blade attack. Besides a few people, no one else could see how he did it. All they could see was a white light shooting out from his back, slashing at the center of Jing Aoshuan's fist. This attack happened to be when Jing Aoshuan's Zhen Yuan was at its weakest. Chin. Bright sparks spilled everywhere as Jing Aoshuan's arm shook, her sleeves exploding. Ling Luohan did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he flew to the side and put his long blade back in its scabbard. Boom! The second he flew away, Jing Aoshuan's other fist punched into the surreal space. Thunder and lightning interweaved together, looking like an angry dragon. Shoo! The second blade attack appeared instantly, and a white light shot out. Jing Aoshuan was extremely furious. Her opponent was like a slippery fish, escaping as soon as she touched it. Every time she was about to use up her power, he would launch an attack. Jing Aoshuan was not a stupid person either. Once she realized when she would be attacked, she immediately changed the rhythm of the battle. She threw out a punch, but only used half of her power, waiting for her opponent to counterattack before launching an even bigger attack. Yi Chen and Ling Luohan shook their heads at the same time. Jing Aoshuan's advantage was that she could only advance and not retreat. This was not only in terms of form, but also in terms of mentality. Her mentality had to have an unstoppable momentum. Even if she was going to lose, she would try to win in the midst of defeat without a single bit of hesitation. Indeed, the second Jing Aoshuan changed the rhythm of the battle. Ling Luohan's body had already gotten close, and he threw out a blade attack. Boom! Jing Aoshuan had tasted the bitter fruit she had planted herself. She had only used half of her power, and even if she added it again, there was still a slight gap, and her figure was forced to retreat. Jing Aoshuan retreated, while Ling Luohan rushed forward. His long blade had just returned to its scabbard when he pulled it out again. This time, The way he pulled it out was extremely meticulous, pausing 3 times in the middle. The first time, Jing Aoshuan was just about to counterattack, but she immediately pulled it back. The second time, Jing Aoshuan clenched her teeth and counterattacked without caring about anything else. She had already realized that she had still fallen into her opponent's rhythm, and had even lost her usual style. Unfortunately, it was too late. Ling Luohan stomped on the ground and jumped up high. His long blade was unsheathed, and a white light poured down. Crossing her arms, Jing Aoshuan was sent flying, and she could not help but puke out a mouthful of blood. Boom! All of a sudden, the tea house of the Gold Sand region shook. The red-haired Chu Zhongtian was like a mad dragon as he rushed down, attacking Ling Luohan. I will be your opponent. All right. Ling Luohan was not caught off guard. For him, any time was the time to counterattack, and it was also the time to attack. There was not much of a difference. The only difference was who was attacking. Chu Zhongtian was powerful. His advantage did not lie in anything else but his evil spirit body and evil yuan. Therefore, he did not have any scruples and immediately launched a fierce attack. He was like an angry mad dragon, destroying and tearing apart anything in front of him. Ling Luohan frowned. Chu Zhongtian's aura was too crazy. Moreover, it was not Jin Yuan that he was using, but evil yuan. Clang, 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 clang. Unlike Li Shaoyin and Jing Aoshuan, Chu Zhongtian seemed to be suppressing Ling Luohan. Occasionally, he would be hit, but it was still hard to break through his protective evil yuan and physical defense. Evil spirit body. In the tea house of the snow, iron region, Xie Zhiqiu squinted his eyes. He had not expected that there would be an evil spirit body in the southern regions. It was a constitution that was rarely seen in 10,000 years. People with this kind of constitution were born to be invincible and basically had no weaknesses. It was also the constitution that all kinds of geniuses feared the most, as it could almost ignore one's attack. Boom! The clothes on his chest exploded, revealing a crisscrossed sword mark. However, Chu Zhongtian did not care about it and continued to attack. You are still far from it. There will only be one person who can leave a wound on me. Come and try if you have the guts. Ling Luohan had also gotten angry. He did not believe in evil. Since the opponent had said so, then he would show it to him. All of a sudden, the frequency of his blade drawing increased as he slashed at Chu Zhongtian's protective evil yuan again and again. With his precise control, 1 out of 5 blades would be able to break through the evil yuan. This battle was extremely intense, and it lasted for a long time as well. A lot of people had a new understanding of Chu Zhongtian. It turned out that he was this powerful. Then, they remembered that Yi Chun had left a sword mark on Chu Zhongtian's chest, so they wondered what kind of level he would be at. After 2 hours, the two had consumed a lot of their evil yuan and Zhen yuan, but there was still no clear winner. Although Ling Luohan might lose if his Zhen yuan was weak, Chu Zhongtian might also lose if his evil yuan was weak, because the weaker the evil yuan, the weaker his defense would be. Enough, this battle is even. Xie Zhiqiu did not want to watch this kind of battle. It was too ugly. Chu Zhongtian, get off the stage. Leave the rest to me. Yi Chen also opened his mouth, telling Chu Zhongtian to stop the battle. It was not shameful to be able to fight to this point. Hearing him, the two took a couple of steps back and stopped fighting. Chu Zhongtian snorted coldly and returned to the tea house in the Gold Sand region. Ling Luohan followed him back to the tea house in the Snow Iron region. On the way back, Cui Yinghao passed by him and landed on the battling platform. Taking off the whip from his waist, Cui Yinghao waved his arm, and the long black whip curled towards the tea house where Yi Chun was. Get the hell out. He had not liked Yi Chun for a long time. Yi Chen's attitude gave him the feeling that he could easily crush him. Boom! The long black whip was blown away, and the shocking sword chi seemed to have been suppressed for a long time before finally exploding, forming a shocking sword mark in the sky. If you can take one attack from me, I will let you leave in one piece today. The expressionless Yi Chun flew out of the tea house, his body filled with strands of sword chi. Even his fluttering hair seemed to have a horrifying penetrative power, tearing apart the air. Chapter 512. What a powerful sword chi. This person's sword arts must be extremely frightening. In the tea house of Snow Iron region, Ling Luohan's pupils shrank. Blade Dao and Sword Dao seemed to be worlds apart, but they actually had some similarities. As a top grade blade artist, he could naturally tell that Yi Chun was not someone to be trifled with. Interesting, an evil smile appeared on Xie Zhiqiu's face. Hearing Yi Chen's words, a dense death chi appeared on Chui Yinghao's body. It was invisible and formless, and could interfere with others' judgment to a certain extent, causing them to feel panic and fear towards death. In a battle between experts, a single stray thought was enough to decide the outcome, not to mention being shrouded in death chi. Take one of your moves. Even if you have King Will in your Sea of Soul, it can only protect you from death. It was impossible for Chui Yinghao not to know that some of the top martial geniuses would have King Will in them, and he himself was one of them. However, King Will was not omnipotent. It would only take effect when one was close to death. If it was only an arm being chopped off, it would not be considered close to death. Therefore, everything depended on oneself, and others would not be able to help. Shadowless Whip Kill. Pushing his Zhen Yuan to the extreme, Chui Yinghao flicked his wrist, and the black whip disappeared into the void. In the next moment, within a radius of dozens of meters, there was a tearing chi that could cut through gold and jade. Under such a large amount of tearing chi, anyone who entered this range would either die or be crippled. Moreover, the profound Chui Yinghao had used was the Wind Profound, which was extremely outstanding in terms of speed and tearing effect. Humph! To be crippled by this ace of mine is your honor. Chui Yinghao used to be an assassin, so how could he not know that even a lion would use its full power to catch a rabbit? Moreover, the aura Yi Chen displayed made him feel a bit threatened. He could not afford to be careless. Therefore, he immediately used his most prized ace, hoping to cripple Yi Chen with one whip. I can't even see the whip shadow. How can I fight? The young experts of the southern region were all anxious, and their nerves were stretched taut. Right now, Yi Chen was their last hope. Once he fell, the southern region would truly be finished, and the martial tea gathering would be marked with a mark of humiliation. Many people closed their eyes, not willing to see the following scene. This is your strength? You can't even withstand a single blow. Yi Chen's long hair fluttered in the wind as his body leaned forward. It was as if he was drifting at the edge of the world. He shuttled back and forth between the random ripping chi and approached Chui Yinghao at an extremely fast speed. His right hand rested on the hilt of his sword. The sword was not out of its sheath, but the sword chi had already locked on a Chui Yinghao. Body sword technique. Chui Yinghao's breathing hastened. Not only Chui Yinghao, the East Demon Xie Zhiqiu and One Blade Ling Luohan were also quite surprised. Using his body as a sword, Yi Chen was like a beam of sword light, tearing through the air without even touching his body. It was as if he had directly passed through the sword light, allowing Yi Chen to enter. Don't play tricks in front of me. Your so-called shadowless whip technique is just a joke in my eyes. No matter how hard you try, it won't disappear. As he spoke, Yi Chen himself disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Chui Yinghao. Yours is the shadowless whip. What is my sword? Chin. The second the sword was taken out of its sheath, Yi Chen waved out hundreds of sword attacks. Because of the sword's extreme speed, it seemed like he had only waved it once before putting it back into its sheath. The long black whip fell down from midair, its front end connecting with Chui Yinghao's right hand. He looked down and realized that he was not wounded at all. He then laughed in astonishment. So this is your sword art? Haha, it couldn't even cut through my protective Zhen Yuan. How could it hurt me? Shoo, shoo, shoo. Blood suddenly splashed out. Left shoulder, left chest, left rib, left waist, left leg, left arm, right arm. There was not a single part of Chui Yinghao's body that was unscathed. It was almost at the same time that hundreds of sword wounds appeared. Blood blossomed like scythes, covering Chui Yinghao's body. Looking from afar, Chui Yinghao looked like a human firecracker with countless bloody fireworks gathered together. Dead silence. Inside the manor, inside the tower 10 li away, there was a deathly silence. Shadowless whipped Chui Yinghao could walk together with Bloodhand Tang Jie and one bladeling Luohan. If one were to say that he was far inferior to Tang Jie and one bladeling Luohan, no one would believe it even if they were beaten to death. The young experts of Snow Iron region knew that Chui Yinghao's reputation was even vaguely higher than Tang Jie and Ling Luohan. It was simply because he had killed too many Sea of Soul Realm experts. Speaking of Chui Yinghao, who didn't know that his whip rarely left anyone alive. The number one young expert of Snow Iron region had never expected that Chui Yinghao would not be able to receive even one sword attack from Yichun. So he mumbled something to himself. Xie face was extremely ugly, and killing intent gradually leaked out from between his brows. Good sword art. I, one bladeling Luohan, would like to experience your moves. Ling Luohan couldn't bear it anymore, almost as if he had seen his prey. It was not that he had never lost before. Xie had beaten him once, but Xie had relied on overwhelming strength. In terms of techniques, Xie was not as good as him. He believed that among the young generation, only Sky Martial region could surpass him in terms of techniques. Be it Eastern region, Southern region, Northern region, or Western region, there would not be anyone who could surpass him in terms of techniques. At most, they would be able to keep pace with him. Therefore, after seeing Yi Chen's sword art, apart from a trace of numbness, he felt even more excitement, as if he had eaten a stimulant pellet. Like a rock spreading its wings, Ling Luohan's figure leaped up and arrived in front of Yichun. He stretched his right hand backward, and a white light shot down. This white light did not move in a smooth arc, but was like lightning, twisting and turning, fast like an aurora. The spiraling sword light curled up as Yichun made his move. As soon as he made his move, the white light was cut into 3 parts, with each cut being at the turning point. The spiraling sword light's remaining power was even more ferocious as it headed straight for Ling Luohan's chest. Not good. Ling Luohan's long blade did not have enough time to return to its scabbard, and at this moment, he would not allow it to do so. He was afraid that the moment it returned to its scabbard would be the moment he would be defeated. Therefore, Ling Luohan made an exception. Without putting his blade back into its scabbard, he waved out the second blade. Lose! Another spiraling sword light appeared from within the spiraling sword light. It was Yichun who had instantly changed the size of the spiraling sword light, compressing it by an inch. The outer spiraling sword light was just a shadow formed by the chi flow, and its killing power was also not bad, but it was a little less sharp. Swoosh! While in the air, Ling Luohan's chest burst out 3 feet of blood as he was blown backward. His eyes were filled with shock and horror. In terms of techniques, he had been utterly defeated. After defeating the 2 top young warriors of the Eastern region, Yichun, who was standing in the center of the battling platform, was like a sharp sword that had been sharpened. Affected by his aura, the surrounding air gave people a sharp feeling, as if it could easily pierce through the mountains and the 9 heavens. Chapter 513. The number 1 young warrior of the southern regions is finally here. Indeed, from today onwards, Yichun is the number 1 young sword artist of the southern regions, and also the number 1 warrior, without a doubt. Who dares to argue? Even Chui Yinghao and Ling Luohan couldn't take a single sword attack from Yichun. His power has already reached an unimaginable level, completely surpassing Li Xiaoyan, Princess Jing, and Chu Zhongtian. He has walked ahead of everyone and ascended to the throne. The people of the southern regions were very excited. Their bodies were shaking. They were excited for Yichun beating Chui Yinghao and Ling Luohan, but also shocked by the fact that Yichun had become a number 1 young warrior of the southern regions for many years. Although Li Xiaoyan had the title of a number 1 young warrior, a lot of people still didn't want to admit it, because he didn't beat all of his opponents and was only the number 1 warrior. But now, Yichun had beaten Chui Yinghao and Ling Luohan, which meant that he had indirectly beaten Li Xiaoyan and the other 2. The title of a number 1 young warrior could not be shaken off even if he wanted to. Number 1. In the tower, 10 miles away, Luo Hanshan's eyes were shining as he murmured unconsciously. Those who were close to Yi Chen all had the same expression on their faces. They had almost watched Yi Chen climb to the top step by step from a weak existence to a legendary warrior. This feeling was 10 times stronger than the others, and it was hard for them to understand. How did you do it? Ling Luohan covered his chest with his hand and slowly stood up. He was not wounded too badly, mainly because Yi Chen had shown him mercy. After all, from the beginning till now, Ling Luohan's words and actions had never been out of line. At most, he was a blade maniac. Yi Chen said blandly, "If you only use one blade attack at a time, you will lose sooner or later." Lose in this aspect? Ling Luohan was confused. Ever since he had set a personal rule of only using one blade at a time, his blade art had improved by leaps and bounds within a year. Normal blade artists were no match for him, and even if he were to encounter a warrior of the same level, he would be able to defeat them in a short period of time. You've already gone down the wrong path. Although you can progress quickly on the wrong path, the further you go, the slower your progress will be. In the end, you will come to a standstill. You still have time to change now, but if you go too deep, it will be very difficult to change in the future. Yi Chen was not a friend of the other parties. Hence, the most he could do was to share his views on the Saber Dao. As for whether the other party listened or not, that had nothing to do with him. No matter what, thank you. Ling Luohan cupped his fists and returned to the Snow Iron Region tea house. He had actually forgotten about Shui Yinghao down there. Perhaps he did not care about Shui Yinghao at all. All he cared about was his own blade Dao. Damn it, Shui Yinghao, who was bathed in blood, could only feel the sword qi rampaging through his meridians. If he hadn't found enough spirit energy crystals in an ancient tomb and cultivated a spirit body, his meridians would have been broken long ago, and he would have become a temporary cripple. Yi Chen shot a glance at Shui Yinghao. Honestly, Shui Yinghao and Ling Luohan were not that bad. After all, the former was a genius assassin, and the latter had defeated Jing Aoshuan and tied with Chu Zhongtian. However, the thing that the two should not have done was to play tricks with Yi Chen. Tricks, tricks, tricks. If they did not play this well, they would lose very quickly. If they had fought with Yi Chen honestly, they would not have lost so badly. Especially, in Yi Chen's eyes, the skills of the two had obviously gone down the wrong path. The former thought that if he was fast enough and stealthy enough, he would be able to kill invisibly. However, he did not know that the core of an assassin was to kill with one strike. If he did not kill with one strike, he would have to retreat 1,000 miles away. In order to become an assassin, one would have to give up a lot of things. The latter thought that he would only throw out one blade attack at a time, which would increase his efficiency. However, the Saber Dao was just like the Sword Dao. It was broad and profound. If he only threw out one blade attack at a time, how would he be able to push it to the peak? Yi Chen did not need to use any killing moves against these two, because if he did, he would have to fight them head-on. Since the others were playing tricks with him, there was no need for him to use brute force to break through their tricks. That way, he would not be able to take care of them in one move. Therefore, he only needed to use his normal fast sword to take care of the problem. The fast sword was very fast, without any impurities. Combined with his slaughter sword intent, its power was actually very impressive. Cutting open Shui Yinghao's protective Jinyuan was not a problem at all. Ling Luohan only threw out one blade attack at a time, which in Yi Chen's eyes was full of flaws. When his own sword speed was faster than his blade speed, throwing out one blade attack at a time would be a joke. The reason why he could make it this far was because the others were not as fast as him. In the tea house of Snow Iron Region, Bloodhand Tang, Jie's pupil shrank as he stared at Yi Chen in a daze. He had never seen such a frightening sword artist before. Shadowless Whip Shui Yinghao could not even last one sword attack, and the one-blade Ling Luohan could not even last one sword attack. Since when did such a frightening sword artist appear in the southern regions? Not bad, not bad. Xie Zhiqiu clapped his hands and stood up, looking at Yi Chen with a big smile. Your skills are rare even in the Sky Martial region. Even Shui Yinghao and Ling Luohan had lost in your hands. However, have you ever heard of this saying? No matter how good a skill is, it still needs to be based on one's own strength. Without a solid foundation, the so-called skills would just be a circus. Hearing this, Ling Luohan frowned. Xie Zhiqiu's words had dragged him into the water as well, even though he had to admit that Xie Zhiqiu's strength was not something that could be beaten with skills. Yichen lifted up his eyes. Come down and try, and you will know. Of course, if we don't sweep the southern regions, then coming here would be meaningless. Xie Zhiqiu waved his hand, and an invisible force covered Shui Yinghao, dragging him into the tea house. He then moved his feet slightly and appeared in front of Yichen within a blink. I will beat you within 100 attacks. Xie Zhiqiu did not have the confidence to beat Yichen within 10 to 30 attacks, just like how he could not beat one-blade Ling Luohan within 10 attacks. Make your move. Yichen did not have a top-rank longsword on his waist, but 3 swords in a scabbard. Facing warriors below the Sea of Soul's realm, 3 swords and a scabbard would be enough. Boom! Xie Zhiqiu's attack was very sudden. Without moving his body, he threw out a fist attack. The black fist chi formed into a huge skull and attacked toward Yichen's face. When the skull was about to land, it opened its mouth and let out a strange howl. The miserable sound wave made people confused and unable to concentrate. Yichen had a firm will and was not affected at all. Before Xie Zhiqiu threw out his fist attack, he had already sensed the latter's fist aura. Lifting his hand, the thunder sword bounced up and a sky thunder cut through the sound wave, shattering the skull. The sword chi and fist chi exploded. Reverse sky thunder cut. Stepping forward with his left foot, Yichen's killing attack followed right after. Holding the destruction sword in a reverse grip, the sword light slashed out. Not bad. Xie Zhiqiu was not surprised at all. As a warrior of the demonic arts, he had seen a lot of strange martial arts. He had even seen sword arts that were even more unusual than the reverse sky thunder cut. What surprised him was that the reverse sky thunder cut was obviously a reverse attack of the sky thunder cut, which complemented each other seamlessly. Pop, pop, pop. Xie Zhiqiu backed out. As he was backing out, layers of black chi walls appeared in front of him, canceling out the reverse sky thunder cut's attack. Demonic chi power spell. Backing out 100 meters, the black chi flow behind Xie Zhiqiu's back surged, turning into a bone demon. There was a red flame burning in its pupils. Although it was a flame, it did not feel hot at all. Instead, it was cold and gloomy, as if it was a strange flame made of yin chi and ice chi. Crack! Crack! The bone demon screamed into the sky, and the black sound wave spread out. Within miles, only a couple of people were not affected by the sound wave, while the rest of them were all tensed up. It's not a bloodline. It should be a demonic profound art. Demonic beast phantoms appeared behind one's back out of thin air. However, the bone demon behind Xie Zhiqiu was clearly formed from Zhen Yuan and operated with profound. There was a fundamental difference between the two. Judging from the aura emitted by the bone demon, it was clearly not a low-grade profound martial skill, but a mid-grade profound martial skill. Its profoundness could only be created by a life and death king. Sword intent radiated from his body, annihilating the black sound wave as soon as it approached. Yichen indifferently gazed at Xie Zhiqiu. With the bone demon completely formed, Xie Zhiqiu took a large step forward and punched toward Yichen. Woo! 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 The fist chi was like a ghost wailing and wolf howling, more than 10 to 20% stronger than before. Xie Zhiqiu laughed heartily. Demonic chi power spell can amplify battle power 10 times. Dealing with you, it only needs 2 times. You're the one who can't do it. Of course, Yichen would not believe that Xie Zhiqiu could perform a mid-rank profound sense martial art to 100%. To be able to perform 20 to 30% would already be impressive. But from this, it could be seen that Xie Zhiqiu had indeed received the teachings of a couple of king warriors. Otherwise, he would not be able to have a mid-rank profound sense martial art. Golden Resonant Radiance Sword. Holding the sword with both hands, Yi Chen's thunder sword vibrated at an astonishing frequency. The cyan sword light was instantly dyed with a layer of gold as the sword chopped toward the opponent's fist. Clang! Blazing sparks filled the sky, and fist-size holes appeared on the stage, looking like a beehive. The black fist chi on Xie Zhiqiu's fist dissipated, and he couldn't help but retreat several steps. The bone demon behind him also swayed. Xie Zhiqiu was beaten back. Inside Snow Iron Region's tea house, everyone was somewhat astonished. Humph! Xie Zhiqiu coldly snorted as his two fists collided in front of his chest, releasing a surging chi wave. Demon Chi 10 power spell, 3 power combined. All of a sudden, Xie Zhiqiu's aura became even stronger, and his fist aura became even more ferocious. Half of the stage had been dyed black, a ghostly black color. Facing this fist, Yi Chen didn't back out. Instead, he moved forward, crossing his two swords in front of him, performing the Sky Thundercut and the Reverse Sky Thundercut. Boom! The entire manor was shaking. A violent shock wave exploded between the two of them, spreading out at a speed 10 times faster than the speed of sound. It rushed out of the manor and rushed out for more than 100 miles. Crack! Crack! Countless fine cracks appeared on the rock walls of the surrounding mountains, spreading out wantonly like creepers. Even with 3 amplifications, I still can't beat him. Rubbing his feet on the stage, Xie Zhiqiu's whole body slid out. Black chi surged. Boom! A corner of the stage was blown away. Xie Zhiqiu stopped and quickly formed a seal with both of his hands. At the same time, the 2 arms of the bone demon stabbed into his shoulders. All of a sudden, his aura skyrocketed, making him look like a demon. Chapter 514. Hundreds of meters away, Yi Chen quietly watched the ever-changing Xie Zhiqiu. Strands of sword chi curled up around his body, giving off a layer of blue vibe. Hee. Xie Zhiqiu raised his head and issued a strange laughter that didn't sound like that of a human being. His arms were covered by a layer of black light film. The light film then combined into the shape of a huge arm skeleton. At the end of the skeleton was a palm leaf fan-sized skeletal palm. Each finger was a foot long, and the nails were sharp. They were curved into hooks and were glistening with a dark gray halo. The demonic Chi Power Top 10 spell can increase the battling power as well as contain killing attacks. You should be proud of being able to push me to this level. Now, I will completely suppress you. Shoo! Just as he finished speaking, Xie Zhiqiu jumped toward Yi Chen at an extreme speed. His right arm, which was covered by the bone demon's arm, waved out, leaving 5 black claw marks in the air. It reached Yi Chen within a blink of an eye. Chin! Yi Chen waved out a sword attack to block out the bone demon's arm. The power contained in the bone demon's arm was unimaginably huge. It was like a giant waving its palm, blowing away Yi Chen along with his sword. Get down! Xie Zhiqiu chased after him as the bone demon's arm turned into a fist, throwing out a punch. Gold Resonant Radiance Sword. Even in the air, Yi Chen's posture did not change at all. Seeing the incoming fist, he threw out a 60% trained Gold Resonant Radiance Sword attack. Beautiful sparks flew everywhere as Yi Chen was blown away once again. That bone demon's arm was indeed a super powerful existence. Not only did it have a horrifying defense, but its attacking power had also surpassed 60% trained profound sense martial arts. It was like the bone demon had been reborn, and its power was boundless. You have no chance at all. Lose. No one knew the terror of the demonic Chi Power Top 10 spell better than Xie Zhiqiu. When he had gotten the jade letter containing the profound sense martial arts of the demonic Chi Power Top 10 spell, he had been shocked by the images inside. It was only one punch, but it had shattered a falling star that had a diameter of hundreds of miles. Even normal king warriors would have to back out of its way. Crack! Bone Devil's arms became even tighter as he attacked at an extremely high speed. In the process of retreating, it was clearly impossible for Yi Chen to dodge, but he didn't need to. He raised his left hand, extended his index finger, and lightly tapped. Then, a frightening scene occurred. A 1-meter-long cyan-colored finger as thick as a thigh burst out and firmly pressed on Xie Zhiqiu's Bone Devil's fist. The fist of the Bone Devil, which had an extremely frightening defensive power, was like a fragile crystal. It exploded with a pop sound. Then, the Bone Devil's arm was affected and exploded into pieces. Xie Zhiqiu's body shook violently as he was connected to the Bone Devil's arm. Blood flowed out of his 7 apertures, and he even spouted a stream of blood from his mouth. What kind of finger technique is this? Xie Zhiqiu was sent flying like a meteor. His face was full of fright. Putting the thunder sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chun said indifferently, "Although I really don't want to say it, my strongest attack is not sword arts, but finger arts." When he had returned from the underground world and traveled through the void through the undying altar, Yi Chun had already comprehended the void-shattering finger art to 30%. 30% might sound low, but the void-shattering finger art did not contain any ordinary profound, but the extremely rare space profound. Time was the king, and space was the most powerful profound. Without the time profound, space profound would be the strongest profound, and all other profounds would be restrained by it. The void-shattering finger art was not a single movement, but a set. Yi Chun had obtained the third movement. If the first and second movements were low-grade profound martial arts, then even if the third movement was not a mid-grade profound martial art, it would still be somewhere between mid and low-grade, and its power had completely reached the level of a mid-grade profound martial art. If it was not necessary, Yi Chun would not use the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, because it was his ace attack. Once it was revealed, it would be the time to kill. Right now, he used it not because he wanted to kill Xie Zhiqiu, but because he had another ace attack that was not weaker than the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, which was the Lotus Heart Sword Chi. By itself, the Lotus Heart Sword Chi might not be as powerful as the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, but when the Lotus Heart Sword Chi turned into a Sword Chi Storm, its power would not be any weaker, and its attacking range would be even greater than the third movement of the void-shattering finger art. It could be considered as Yi Chun's most powerful killing attack. The most powerful attack is actually not the sword art, but the finger art. So shocking. A true dragon can soar into the sky, and no one can stop it. So what if it is the East Demon, Xie Zhiqiu? He is still not an opponent for Yi Chun when he gets serious. So powerful. Is this Yi Chun's real power? Not only people from the southern region, even people from the Snow Iron region were shocked, especially Ling Luohan, Cui Yinghao, and Tang Jie. They had come to this martial tea gathering to sweep the entire gathering, and everything had been going smoothly, and they had almost succeeded. But in the end, a single Yi Chun had ruined all of their efforts and made them fall into such a situation. Now, even the East Demon Xie Zhiqiu was not an opponent for him. So who else could stop Yi Chun? I had never thought that Yi Chun would grow to such a horrifying level. I really wonder if he came from our Sky Cloud Martial School. Lu Hanshan's face was filled with disbelief. Zhu Mei said, "Dragons can be big or small. They can hide in swamps. They can also soar into the sky, and they can create clouds and rain. Without a doubt, Yi Chun is a true dragon that has descended into the Sky Cloud Martial School. Before this, it was his dormant period. Once he shows his power and grows his claws and teeth, it will be the time for him to soar into the sky. I, the East Demon, have not lost yet." Fire Demon God Palm. The Bone Demon behind him disappeared, merging back into his body. Xie Zhiqiu's hands burned with a bright red flame, seeming like an inextinguishable flame. He abruptly stepped on the platform, stabilized his body, and waved both his hands, throwing out 2 flame palms. Boom! Within the torrent-like flame, a sharp demon claw could be faintly seen. It was a palm that looked like a human, yet not a demon, and contained the will of fire. Seeing that Xie Zhiqiu still had such a powerful martial art, everyone was shocked. He was indeed worthy of being the East Demon Xie Zhiqiu. If it were someone else, they would have been defeated long ago and would not have been able to push him to such a desperate situation. Thinking up to here, Everyone could feel the terror of Yi Chun from the bottom of their hearts. Yi Chun shook his head as he pointed out his right index finger. The next second, a stone pillar-like finger appeared in the air. It was 10 meters long and 1 meter thick. The fingerprints were blurry, but it was still emitting a transparent halo like a shooting star. With one finger, this finger had destroyed Xie Zhiqiu's flame palm power and pressed on his protective Zhenyuan layer like a hot knife through butter. Boom! Finally, the battling platform could not bear the repeated attacks anymore and was instantly torn apart, collapsing from the two sides to the center. Meanwhile, Xie Zhiqiu was pressed onto the ground by the huge finger, his hair disheveled. At this moment, the East Demon Xie Zhiqiu looked miserable. However, the calm Yi Chun made everyone suck in a cold breath from the bottom of their hearts. Even someone as powerful as Xie Zhiqiu could not have an easy time against him, and ended up in such a miserable state. Chapter 5:15. Xie Zhiqiu has lost. Cui Yinghao and Tang Jie looked at Xie Zhiqiu, who was being pressed on the ground by the huge finger. They could tell that he could not move at all, as if he was being pressed by a mountain. In front of him, Yi Chun, who was dressed in blue, was still in his finger-pointing posture, looking very calm. The East Demon Xie Zhiqiu was not a flower in a greenhouse. He was the ghost grass in the wild grassland, growing up through slaughter and ascending through slaughter. His achievements were not fake at all. They were all from real battles. Those who doubted him were either trampled under his feet or had their souls shattered. His most shocking action was that he had gone to the Sky Martial region alone. The Sky Martial region was the center of the continent, where the geniuses were as numerous as the carps in the river. It was not only the gathering place of geniuses, but also the birthplace of monsters. Wanting to make a name for oneself was as hard as climbing up to the sky. Countless people had been beaten black and blue and had left in low spirits. However, Xie Zhiqiu had done something that others could not, and had spread the title of East Demon in the Sky Martial region, gaining him quite a bit of fame. But what was going on right now? The East Demon Xie Zhiqiu had been beaten by a young man who had not even walked out of the southern regions and had no power to fight back. In the end, he was lying on the ground with no face left. If it were not for the fact that it would hurt if they pinched themselves, they would have thought that they were dreaming. Ling Luohan took a deep breath and said to the two, "Don't look at me in disbelief. There is no reason for the birth of monsters. If there could be an East Demon Xie Zhiqiu, then there could be another Yi Chun. In this era, there is no such thing as the strongest, only stronger." To be honest, even he himself was shocked. How could it be such a coincidence that they had met a Yi Chun, and a Yi Chun had beaten them all to the ground? Pop! The huge finger containing the space mentality disappeared as Yi Chun said lightly, "You can leave now. There is no need for me to invite you in person, right?" Cough, cough. Xie Zhiqiu slowly stood up while coughing out blood. "Good, very good. This is the first time I, Xie Zhiqiu, have lost outside of the Sky Martial region. You are the first, and you will be the last. Wait for my return. The day I return will be the day of your nightmare. Today's humiliation will be returned 100-fold. It was not that Xie Zhiqiu had never been defeated before. However, those who defeated him were all geniuses of the Sky Martial domain. Most of them had already been trampled underfoot by him. He believed that Yi Chun would be the next one to be trampled underfoot ruthlessly. I've heard these words countless times. Unfortunately, they're getting further and further away from me. I can't even see hope. Do you think you have hope? Yi Chun didn't take Xie Zhiqiu's threats seriously. In fact, he actually hoped that someone would challenge him. But the prerequisite was that they had sufficient strength. How could you possibly understand my future achievements? You're just a stepping stone for me. One day, I'll step on you and reach even greater heights." Hearing this, Yi Chun shook his head and chuckled. "Get lost. I'm waiting for you to step on me. Go." Xie Zhiqiu flew out of the manor with a pale face. Then Ling Luohan, Tang Jie, and Cui Yinghao also flew out of the tea house, flying towards the north. The manor was silent for a while before it suddenly boiled up, defeating the 4 top young warriors of the eastern regions with his own power. When had anyone in the southern regions ever done this before? In the past 1,000 years, only Xianhou and Yi Chun had done it. In other words, Yi Chun's current achievements could already be compared with Xuanhou's. Until the very end, no one could say for sure. Yi Chun, congratulations. From now on, you are the king of the young generation of our southern regions. Li Xiaoyan was the first one to go downstairs to congratulate him. Yi Chun didn't care. It's just an empty title. An empty title could easily make people obsessed. Taking it too seriously would just be asking for trouble. Hee, whether it's an empty title or a real one, you deserve this position. However, the throne is not that easy to sit on. In the future, the glory of the southern regions will be closely related to you. Even if you want to stay out of it, you won't be able to. There are some things that won't work according to your will. Yi Chun nodded. Having come this far, he couldn't back out anymore. Then, everyone went downstairs to congratulate Yi Chun. At this point, there was no longer any suspense. Even Jing Aoshuan and Chu Zhongtian had accepted this result. What else could they do if they didn't accept it? If they had the ability, they could go beat Xie Qiu and the others. In fact, they should be glad that Yi Chun was here. Otherwise, this tea gathering would have been the most humiliating one. Now, they understood that the throne was not something ordinary people could sit on. Without the power, sitting on it would only be a joke, and they could be beaten down at any time. The next morning, the tea gathering had come to an end. Xie Qiu's incident had added a legendary color to this tea gathering. Perhaps people would forget about the previous tea gatherings, but they would never forget this one. The tea gathering's end was not the real end. When the news spread out, and everyone knew that Yi Chun had officially become the #1 warrior of the southern region, all the martial institutions gasped. His growth speed was way too fast. In the last tea gathering, he was only on par with Li Xiaoyan and the other two, with a slight advantage. How could he leave them in the dust after only 2 years? Yi Chun could no longer be described as a genius. Only a monster would be more suitable. The South River region was already shocking enough, and the other regions were even more shocked. They had no doubt that as long as Yi Chun could continue to grow, he would definitely reach the life and death realm. Moreover, they believed that once Yi Chun entered the life and death realm, he would definitely surpass normal king warriors. Perhaps he would be like Xianhou, becoming a top king warrior in a couple of years. This kid cannot be left alive. Back then, one Xianhou had already made us lose a lot. With another Yi Chun, I am afraid that even when our leader recovers his peak power, he would not be able to do anything. Inside a secret underground manor, a group of mysterious people in black robes gathered together. Isn't it a bit too exaggerated? He is not even a Sea of Souls realm warrior yet. He is still far away from the life and death realm. Stupid. Have you forgotten about Xianhou? It is because we underestimated her that we ended up in this situation. Killing him while he is still weak is the best choice. Otherwise, once he grows stronger, no one will be able to do anything to him. In that case, let me do it. Just in case, we have to kill him with one attack this time, because there is still a South River Martial School in the Windy Nation. I suspect that there is more than one Long Bai there. Perhaps there will be other Sea of Souls realm warriors, and even master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors. Therefore, we will not have a second chance. Ghost Cry, Ink Wolf, you two move together and kill this kid once. Don't worry. Although we are not master-level Sea of Souls realm warriors, killing a brat who is not even fully grown yet will be a piece of cake. Just wait for the good news. Shoo! Shoo! 2 people in black robes were gone. Nightmare, you follow them. The leading man in black robes seemed to be worried as he said to the shadow hidden in the darkness behind him. Yes, second master. A dry voice was heard, but the shadow had already disappeared.